All right, squad. We are on. Today we are talking about Hyrox. We're going to do a preview, a little bit of a draft, some games, this and that. But first, Jack has some sort of big topic that he didn't want to disclose to us. He's given us like a surprise topic right now on air. So what do you got, Jack? What's going on?
Okay, so it's not like the earth-shattering topic. It was just, we're always talking about OCR controversies, and they're normally in the US. There was one that was over in Europe, so I just kind of wanted to see how you guys think it should have been handled. So OCR Worlds was a couple of weekends ago, and the guy who got fourth place, Manuel Defoe, he ended up, I was looking him up because I'm like, oh, he wasn't on the list. He kind of had a rough week. They only paid top 3 for OCR Worlds podium. He got fourth place. And then I found out he had an even worse week the week before. And this is what I wanted your opinions on. So they had a race in Italy, the last race of the Italy National Series, and he ended up winning that, and it was a beast. However, about halfway through the race, there was just terrible storms and stuff, and only 20 people crossed the finish line, no women. And that was the last race of the National Series. So what they did is they said, we're going to actually count the Super tomorrow. We're going to rerun it. You guys all race the beast all out. And you guys we're going to count the Super as the last race in the National Series. So Manuel, who went over for OCR Worlds, ended up not sticking around because he had a flight to catch the US the next day. Someone else won the race on Sunday. Manuel would have won the National Series race, which would have got him $1,500 plus like an extra $400 or $500 for winning the race itself. And then someone else ended up taking the crown for him. And so I just wanted your takes on how they probably should have handled the situation, because the guy lost like $2,000. Everybody's tired from running a 2+ hour beast the day before. How would this have gone down in the US basically? And what do you think the right way to handle a situation like this is?
Probably would have went down even worse.
We would just have people pouring fuel on that fire. That would have been
he would have been DQ'd.
They would have rescheduled it for like, I don't know, December 25th, maybe somewhere. And it would just be super inconvenient, and they would just bend us all over. So I don't know. That outcome seems probably better than some.
Because a lot of times when in Minnesota, that race that 3 of us ran, remember there was a storm like in the middle of it, right? And they pulled people off and made them start over again.
Half of the women's elite field finished, and then
it wasn't just like right in the middle or something.
Right in the middle up on the mountain. So they made them walk all the way back down, and then they gave them the option to either restart from the beginning or go up and then restart from where they left off. It was a mess. Yeah.
Except there were timing mats before and after obstacles. So if you failed, for example, there was spear and then twister. If you had just failed one of those 2 and hadn't crossed the next timing mat, you got to go back and redo it without failing it. Or if you had just failed it, but crossed the timing mat getting off of it, some people just continued from that timing mat without burp. So it was a mess. However, I think the logical thing is, like most sports, is once an acceptable amount of the game has been completed, it now can be counted. It's like once you have a podium across the line, the race is done. If it's called at this point, it's over.
What do you do with the women? If they complete over half, if they complete over half of the course, then they just give it to them there or something at the last timing mat. That's
where it gets sticky. But since 20 men finished, I think that the race is over. And you count
worst case, you count that basically.
Yeah, because they finished.
Yeah.
I think worst case is you count the men's race there, and then you count the women's race the next day. But you can't be punished for getting across the line before the weather hit.
That's even more of a reason for people to not come to OCR World Championships. I'm sure Manuel's probably like, this was such a waste of my time. I cannot believe that I flew all the way over there for this.
And he was probably banking on getting that money to help with his transatlantic travel as well. And yeah.
Tough break.
Where did you hear about this?
So I was looking up the results because I was checking Manuel, just learning a little bit more about him. I know he got 6th in the 15K last year and 4th this year. I'm like, wow, he's kind of underrated. Heard of him in a handful of races in the past, and then I saw that they had someone else who got second, Jeremy Gachet. He ended up like podiuming regardless because he also got on the podium the next day in the Super as well. But I think Eugenio Bianchi ended up winning the Super, even though he didn't place well in the Beast the day before. So he ended up going from not on the series podium to winning it overall and getting an extra couple $1,000. So I was just trying to learn more on the situation, and then talked with Jeremy, kind of filled me in.
He was
that
just
happened at Tampa Stadium one year.
Oh yeah, you had the Isaiah doing the super good 100-meter barbed wire crawl or something, right?
Yeah, we all Hunter and I broke away from the field leading into the sandbag carry and then hammered the sandbag carry. Apparently, we both had the same plan. It's like a mile and a half into the race. Came out of it with probably a 25-second gap and got to work, just going back and forth, surging. And we got to the end of a concourse, and there were doors closed. There was lead into the stadium or lead down out of it, and there were no markings anywhere. Turned out you're supposed to go through those doors, but someone had removed the tape and shut the doors. So we looked into the stadium, didn't see tape, looked down the stairs, looked behind us. People were starting to come. So we just said, all right, let's go down here. It'll at least lead us down towards something. Because there was nothing. There's no markings on this side of the stadium. So we went down, we got outside, and we're back on the course. But like the premier aspect of the stadium race that year was that Raymond James Stadium had tore up their field in the off season. And so the Spartan got to use it. So they made 100-yard barbed wire crawl and the football throws on the stadium. And we hadn't done that. So we realized like we're both either DQ'd, but everyone's following us down the stairs, or we're all good. So either way, we decided to run side by side next to each other and split the check. Either we're both DQ'd or we take first, second, and we split the checks evenly. So we ran the last 1,000 of the course, finished, and then the next like 7 people came in saying the exact same thing, and Joe DeSena was there. It was a Navy Federal race, and he's like, all right, we're just going to count it as is. If everyone went off the course, and Hunter and I'm like, all right, it was like 3,000, 2,000, 1,000. It was a big race, and they gave out like not Rolexes, but some fancy watch for first. Anyway, so then Magida came in like 13th, he's like, I'm the only one who did the real course.
I'm the winner.
I should win. And everyone's like, no, that's not it. And Joe's like, well, he did do the real course. So they decided they were going to rerun the race in 20 minutes from the last known point everyone was there for, which was coming off the sandbag carry. There was a timing mat. So they reset us to there, which is a mile to go. But they made everyone start together, not by your time you had.
If you got there a minute ahead, it didn't matter. You're all just
right. So now we started together,
zero.
and they let the top 25 guys restart. And so everyone now had a 1 mile shot to the finish for an equal share of $3,000. So people sprinted off the line. We did like 10 feet, turned into the concourse, ran straight down, did the football throw, which everyone missed except I believe Michael Mark. And then we had a 100-yard barbed wire crawl. So you did 30 burpees, 100-yard barbed wire crawl, and then 1,000-meter loop to the finish. So Isaiah was the fastest burpeer and the fastest barbed wire crawl, and he won the race. And Hunter and I got out in like 18th and 19th, and then ran everyone down and took second and third.
That checks out on the Magida side of things. I can like hear his voice saying, I did the course.
What would you do in that case? I would maybe.
I'm not blaming him.
Approach.
That's a lot of money.
I caught him coming off the rope climb with like 80 meters to go.
Do you think
put him into the ground?
You think Magida closed those doors and is like, I got a backdoor way to win this whole thing? He went and kicked those doors shut, and he's the only one who knew it.
Long story short, there's a precedent for it being handled improperly. So I don't think we would have done any better. Okay. I do have to apologize though. On our episode, I said that Chris Rogloski won the 100-meter dash at OCR Worlds. And I received a lot of messages. The loudest of the messages was Matt B. Davis saying that I never posted that. How could you think that? And he's right. He didn't.
Bracken, why are you apologizing about something every other episode, it seems?
I guess I make the most flippant statements.
Is that what it is?
Here's the issue is valid though. The person who's won it, Jack, remind me of her name.
Jaleesa.
Jaleesa what? She's like 17 or 18.
I've been to the place in Colorado Springs. The training facility is amazing. I thought it was Jaleesa Himka.
Anyway, she's won 2 years in a row, and she's got no notoriety for it. and I deprived her of the chance to be announced as the winner. Chris Rogloski had the fastest seed time coming into finals. And when I checked on Sunday, their results were apparently still the seed times coming in. So it is my fault. I didn't check again Monday before we recorded. So I thought Chris won it. She did not. I don't even know if she competed in finals, but
I
the
heard
actual winner deserves credit.
I heard that Chris won 5 podiums, 3K, 15K. I saw her with the women's team. I saw her with the co-ed team. So I just assumed the other one was the 100 meters. That's why I didn't say anything there. But I think it was that big controversy where she ended up racing in the open heat with some of her friends also, and then got a podium there. So that was her 5th one.
Yes.
100 meters to 100 miles has a ring to it, though. That would have been sweet, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's a
All right.
range, folks.
Anyway, I'm not sorry for saying she won. I'm sorry for not giving the winner her due.
So her name is Jaleesa Himka. She won. Malia Oshner got 2nd, and Alyssa Beard got 3rd. So let's give them that shout. Congratulations.
And how old
Joe, is she? I don't know. I'll go back and check. Joe Moravsky, Lurie Prokudin, and Anthony Erdley. I don't know if these athletes feel like they are unheralded, like they need that they're not getting this this big recognition that they think they should get. But it's like I don't even understand that they have this at this race. I honestly don't get
Leon
it.
and Ida came to Colorado Springs last year, and we went to Jaleesa's Ninja Gym. I think her parents own it, and we went there. And Ida and Leon, they're kind of known as a couple of the most obstacle proficient athletes in the sport. They were just jaw on the ground, just like I can't do what this 16-year-old girl can do. Like her lacheying and her body awareness was just super impressive to them. So that just tells you what kind of an athlete Jaleesa is.
Does she have any endurance acumen, or
is it just ninja?
Ninja specialist?
I think she just does ninja.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that's what it is.
She did. There was a video on her Instagram where she beat Jessie Graff in a head-to-head short course race.
Oh wow!
If you wanted to build a 100-meter champion, you would just get like a 15-year-old gymnast and say, "Go knock yourself out."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the pole vault in track and field. It's like, well, do you do anything else? Just this. This is the only thing you can do. Okay, then then you
Still
count for
hard
something.
thing to do.
Although that's not valid.
Why?
How many 5K runners
You
do
only do
anything
shot
else?
put.
They can do the 5K runners can do a 10K or 1500. Throw them in a 4x8.
Not
Everybody
all.
else, what? They can. The pole vaulters that pole vault event is the only one that just like stands alone as like you just do this one thing. I think it's more of gymnastics. Jav maybe, but Jav you could probably throw them into shot put in high school or something, or disc. They could throw tanker relay.
You really don't like the 100.
I don't like the 100 at all. And that's that.
Yeah.
So
anyway, just to bring closure, I mainly just wanted to bring that up because in the future, when we do the OCRAs, the OCR awards, if we ever have like a most unlucky racer, Manuel Defoe gets my vote after what
I didn't know what okra stood for, so I just stayed silent in the group chat. I didn't know what you were talking about. I didn't want to feel dumb.
You just thought we were talking about the vegetable.
Well, I knew it wasn't that. I just didn't know what it was.
you were there for the okras.
I don't
You know what
remember
the
that
okras
being
are.
a thing.
Bracken was there in the original OCRAs
Wow.
before
Yeah.
Kirk got brought on. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm actually surprised they don't have. I mean, their stupid rule book on Zendesk. They don't have like something laid out for weather in races that matter, right? Shouldn't it be very simple? If a podium crosses the line, that is your podium. And let's say if nobody crosses the line, but half of the timing mats are crossed, then the race is over at that point. Like something simple. Isn't it very easy to just make a universal rule that we can all agree with, right?
Yeah. What would it be?
Then it comes down to who's the best day 2 racer at that point. If they ended up saying we're going to throw this one out the window and only count tomorrow, like that, if you sell out in a half marathon distance the day before, it's going to be kind of hard to come back. Some people don't even like doubling.
With travel plans, that's an unreasonable pivot.
Yeah.
That's not even a viable option, right? So it's just, I think that'd be a very easy rule to create.
Okay, so take like 15 seconds each. What would your proposed rule be for inclement weather at a race that is a championship or needs points?
Latest checkpoint.
Latest checkpoint.
Standings at that point.
I would say latest. Well, yeah, I think there has to be like, well, I guess
Percentage.
you'd have to keep it universal. You're right, because checkpoints are at various areas unless they put a checkpoint. If it's a 13.1 mile race, then the checkpoint is at 7.45 miles right at the half, or 7.55 right at the halfway point. Otherwise, you have to have some sort of measure, right? Because everybody crosses the timing mat, and then 5 minutes later, the first timing mat, and there's lightning 5 minutes into the race. But because I took off like a shot, I win the race.
You need a percentage.
Right.
Maybe you could signify the completion obstacle. You have one obstacle. It could be the spear. I don't care what it is, but every race, it's at 50% of the race.
Storms
it's at
are
dead nuts halfway.
Storms are a potential problem, and at the start line, the ref says, "Hey, in case of weather, this is going to be the last obstacle in which is timed. So go nuts and let it fall how it falls." That would be fun.
Yeah, you know that. All right, spear throw rules in effect today, or bender rules in effect. It's a race to. I mean, it's a race to the finish line. But if it gets called early, it's bender order.
I'd watch that race
just to make it even more OCR. People just going out even harder than they would typically.
Yeah, and then the storm doesn't hit,
and then everybody just is super dead for the second half.
Love it.
Which would probably lead to the same podium. It would be either way because the people with the biggest engine would hang on the best after being dead.
I think that would be fair. Is there a place where they could just push it to after the open waves or something like that? It's like, okay, now the
whole day was stormy. Like
it was all
no
dead.
one. They just canceled the beast for the rest of the day. There was
I
one
agree
age
that-
group guy that finished. No women.
I agree that day 2 is the next logic. Like, what else are you going to do? Yeah, flights and everything. Someone's going to be impacted by it, but it's the next logical option. What are you going to do? Have it the next week?
Right.
Give double points to the next race. If it's the last race, next day is the obvious. But if there is no better option, then you just can't count it.
Listen, in that event in Minnesota, it was a mountain series race that you guys had come out for.
Sure was.
And so it mattered for the age group too, I believe. And my buddy Madison Nick, got called off the mountain, came down. He's like, I'm crossing the damn finish line. Had his timing chip on, went down, won by like 13 minutes.
Crush.
Nobody ever went back and corrected that. So I think you just kind of Superman across the finish line, see if they catch the clear glare or not,
Savvy.
fall between the cracks. He ended up messaging to get that cleared up. But nonetheless,
Madison,
that's also
Nick.
a good option.
Guess what I got for my birthday from Lisa this year? A new seat cover. 3 years later, I replaced that seat cover that I left in his Camaro.
Only Nick will know.
Forever.
That was a gift you gave to him.
With my sweat.
All right. Want to talk about some Hyrox?
Let's do it.
Let's talk about some Hyrox. So the season is officially underway. We had our first U.S. race in New York this past weekend. There was a race in Europe and Basel, a couple weeks before that. So we have a couple of data points for what it's going to look like. So I think we'll just kind of talk about it in the grand scope of things. We'll talk about some of the players who we think might break out. And then we'll do this Dynasty draft that we're going to kind of workshop on air as well. So one thing I'll do.
A question first?
Sure can.
Did you get in hot water with MBD on your episode with him last Monday?
No.
Did he grill you?
Not really.
What in the world? Did you guys talk about this and set me up yesterday?
Bracken, let me just add this. So Kurt,
I don't want this to be a whole thing because it's been discussed ad nauseum. I just want to know, did he grill you?
I received no grilling. I think he was on our episode. Like there was a some sort of maintenance person who was in and around the house. So every couple minutes, Matt's attention went to this maintenance person. So I don't really remember even what we talked about on our episode.
I might have preferred that.
Taco Bell, I think we talked about. Chalk a little bit.
Okay.
But no, I didn't.
Your episodes there already?
Not Kirk's.
Mine on the same day. They went right out.
Because I did like 6 weeks ago, and mine's still not popped up. What a
Kirk's
waste of my damn time, Matt.
Jack, I cut you off. Go ahead. You can say your reaction.
Kirk started off saying, Bracken, you're always apologizing at every single episode. I think Matt needs to offer you an apology after your back and forth during that episode. He was not listening to you whatsoever, wouldn't consider anything that you said. You were bringing up very reasonable points, and he was just, this is my stance. You're not going to change it that whole time. And it was pretty frustrating to listen to.
Well, his stance was so faulty that I felt like he was doing it tongue in cheek. And that's why I kept going. I thought this was like he was putting me on. So I still don't know if he was being serious or not.
I think he was. I know
I'm
how
gonna
he
listen.
acts. That was genuine, Matt.
I'm gonna listen.
Rich,
and I'm just gonna.
you got
agree
away
with Matt.
scot-free. Everything we talked about on the episode post OCR WC, he had a list of notes that he took on it, and he grilled me on them. You didn't get that, and you were a lead commentator.
We didn't do Race Brain before we talked. I think Matt and I talked on Monday, then we did Race Brain on Tuesday.
Matt did compliment Race
So he had
Brain a
ammo.
lot, though. He was happy with our debates.
He was really excited about it, but then he just brought the negatives to the table. So anyway, I thought as host and lead commentator / co-producer, I thought you deserved the blame, not me.
Yeah, you took that bullet because you are used to saying things that are incorrect and then retroactively fixing them. So
I'm the only one with the moral compass to apologize. The rest of you heathens just sit there and bask in your filth.
So is this worth the listen? I don't listen.
I don't know.
Matt's main issue was Bracken brought up the point where if you, and I don't even want to go down this road because you guys talked about it for an hour, but remember on the episode when he was like, is it that hard to find one sponsor? You have all year to get one big title sponsor for the event to increase prize money for the top end of the pro sport. Is it that hard to do? And then Matt did not like Bracken's take on it. And then
the phrasing, is it, how hard could it be?
Yeah.
He didn't like that phrasing.
It was the wording on it and a lot of semantics there, but you can listen to it there. I listened to it already. I don't want to listen to more of it.
Oh, do I have so many DMs this morning?
yeah.
You asked for them, so that's good.
I did.
Listen.
I did.
Why do you ask for things you're not going to respond to?
I'm really doing my best.
Bracken leaves me on red all the time, and we basically sleep together. So good luck, folks.
Basically,
You don't leave someone on red. You just don't see it.
Is that what it is?
You just don't read it. It's not an option.
Yeah. I've responded to at least 10% of them already today.
That's pretty good.
That's a
That's not
failing
bad.
grade.
All right, Dredge, you were saying something?
We're talking about Hyrox, I think. We're talking about Hyrox, damn it, and we're gonna
just steer their ship.
about it. Yeah, I know. This is like the winds are heavy today, blowing us all over the place. See, did you guys watch Bracken? I know you were on. Bracken is great when the Instagram live feeds on. When anybody has a shoe question, Bracken's like, "I'm here. Hello."
Listen, if you're gonna put a live stream on, I'm gonna be watching.
Yep,
I've said that on this episode before. That's not just speaking words. I'm a man of racing.
And it's not bad. I mean, I wish they would do it on YouTube or something that would kind of it's a better viewing experience on YouTube than it is on Instagram. But the rabbit, his name's Graham Hankin, who works for Hyrox. He's good. He's like on top of it. He's like a fit person, so he can like run around with everybody, and you can get a pretty good amount of coverage. He has like the tech gear, so it comes out pretty good.
Now,
Jack,
quick interruption. Do these Hyrox events live into perpetuity, or is it a one and done? Because my weekends are sacred, and then I like to catch up during the week. And the problem with this is I don't know where this stuff goes.
It's tough. I think someone has to make it public, or I guess archive it essentially if you want to.
Rich, you checking their stories? Like if it lives on their IGTV, it should be good.
Yeah, that would be where it would go.
Never thought to look, but I would like to catch up on these things. It's just like I got other things I'm doing Saturday morning.
It's good coverage, but everyone loses their minds. Show Stephanie, show Frank. My friend's best friend's aunt's sister.
How's my cousin doing?
Who's been my pen pal since 4th grade is running at 11:48 tomorrow. Why aren't they on the screen? It's like, hey, just let them show the race. If they listen to you, if they were polite enough to listen to you, they would have to listen to everyone, and the camera would just do this the whole time. You wouldn't see anything. Just let them show.
At the end of the men's race, just like show other people, and like it was waiting for Magida to get finished with the wall balls, and Graham was like, "There's nobody else here. We can't show."
They're a station behind.
Yeah, we would show other people, but there's no one else here. Sorry, Kirk. Yes, they are still available on the Instagram IGTV. Again,
Backaways even.
No, it's like that certain, like there's those several like silos that they live under where it would be like Reels, IGTV. So it's like the second one in the IGTV. So
it's on Hyrox World,
America. Hyrox America. Mm-hmm.
Sweet. All right.
But it's clear footage.
It's nice.
It's one phone.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Perks of working out a building with either service in a city or Wi-Fi. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And that's the there's not a ton of commentary, obviously, because it's just Graham. And so he'll chime in when he can. And then it's basically just the people on watching who are complaining about wall ball depth.
Reps.
Like that. Yeah. Lots of, what do you call armchair judges, Bracken?
Mm-hmm.
Lots of those. But the coverage was good. The race was great. It was exciting to see. They moved they initially, Hyrox kind of fumbled this. I believe in Hyrox. I like what they do from an organizational standpoint, but they had this race in October in New York metro area, and they planned on having the run outside, which just in general, like the Northeast is going to be unpredictable for weather. So if you put something outside any time of the year, chances are there's going to be some sort of rain or weather, or it's going to be cold. So they moved and then there was a hurricane over our country at this time. So there was rain. So they had to move it from this outdoor course, which was going to be kind of insane, to a 4-lap indoor course, which is a pretty tough circumstance for a race with 4 laps is a lot. But the times were pretty solid. And
Rock Zone was short.
Rock Zone was small. The runs ended up being a little bit long because of it.
Definitely the first and the last.
The runs were long.
Yeah, Megiddo's first run was like 3:58 or something like that.
Doesn't seem like it for him.
So we'll talk about the race a little bit, but let's just kind of get people caught up on how the changes are from this season in terms of like the qualifications and some of the other things that they're going to change. Jack, you familiar with how they changed the qualifications for the World Championship this year?
Isn't it you have to run an event, one of 4 events, to qualify for the U.S. Championship? And I'm just using U.S. as an example. And then you have to get top 3 there. Same thing with Europe. They have top 3 at their European Championship, and then they fill the rest out with seed times. Is that about right?
Pretty much. There's 6 automatic qualifiers. If you get top 3 in your regional championship, you're automatically in. And then I think the next 9 are going to be time-based.
So are they just breaking it down to Europe and North America, and it's that simple? Is that it? Those are the 2 majors? They haven't spread anywhere else?
Race?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. It hasn't. Yeah.
They said the Middle East. I thought the UAE was going to get an event.
There is one.
There were South American racers, weren't there?
I don't think they have any events there.
Thought we had.
You might have athletes from there, but a physical event. I think that's the
gotcha
hard part. Yeah.
I almost think that maybe like extending those qualifiers. So they're taking 6 out of the 12 would be auto qualifiers.
6 out of the 15. Yeah.
Or out of the 15. Do you think that should be extended further because of the nuances in courses? Yeah, like only opening up like 5 spots because people might be sliding in at a certain event that plays well for unforeseen circumstances. I mean, I'm glad they're doing the automatic qualifier. I think that's a very smart move. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Totally. You guys have raced courses more than I have.
I heard Chris Rogloski, the reigning world champion for Hyrox, she has date conflicts with all 4 events, and you have to run one before the end of this calendar year, right, in order to race the U.S. Championship. So she's like, I don't think that I can actually run one of them. So I don't know how she's going to be able to qualify other than getting one of those roll down 5.
We've had that debate in the past, and that issue with Spartan in the past, that if you are a world champion or the reigning podium, you should be automatically grandfathered into the next major competition. Like you shouldn't have to qualify if you won. I think that's the easiest way to do that. They had that with Albin one year when they made a big deal about qualifying into Spartan Worlds. Everyone had to qualify, and he's like, well, I haven't run one. I haven't had the chance to, and I won Worlds last year. I think I should.
The Ultra World Champs it was, right?
No, it was
Tahoe.
It was
Tahoe one year.
Because Killian was like, well, he's not coming because he didn't run any races.
Yeah, he won 2018, and people didn't want him in 2019 because he didn't run a race yet.
Which defeats the purpose of a world championship.
Yeah.
That's my, like, I understand fairness and equality and all that, but the only purpose of a world championship or a North American championship or a European championship is to find who the best in that region or world is. And you can't do that if the best aren't there, especially the reigning world champion. Like if the reigning world champion doesn't have the opportunity to qualify for her own national championship, that sucks. And then whoever wins has an asterisk, and no one wants that.
I would be okay with them
put like a minimum in an event like Hyrox or DECA where it's actually time based. Maybe have a minimum standard, like the defending women's champ has to break 70. You can't just be like, well, I sat on the couch all year. I want one of those 15 spots. Like just prove it. But Yeah.
Yeah, I would be okay with them amending that because it's not opening the doors to a bunch of circumstances. It's like two people who that then get that guided way into even just their regional championship, not even the world championship. So I think that would be fair.
You got more world representation also, most likely, because we saw very US or very European heavy, and what happened when the event actually happened. Like Rich, you way overperformed your seat time. Dylan Scott did a lot of the athletes Megiddo would have if he was in that top 15 heat. So I think that the more automatic qualifiers based on your individual region's qualifier, that's going to make things more fair.
I would agree. And it seems the way that the competition is dispersed in the different regions, it's not super one-sided. The reason you wouldn't want that, right? Like if US was way behind Europe or something like that, and you get these athletes who are 4th, 5th at the regional championship, and they come to the world championship and get 14th and 15th. But I don't think that that's the case right now. But with more automatic qualifiers, it could run into something like that. If they had some sort of time standard, however, right? Like an Olympic standard, right? Like if you get top 5, but you have to also run at some point 60-30 or something like that to make
That's
sure
what I
that
was
you
saying
belong.
with Chris.
I like that.
You have to break a 70 at a minimum or something.
It's good, but then you have to find a way to standardize sleds and carpets, like and rock zone. Last year, with just as the personal example of this, Callie and I were researching the other teams we could face at Worlds. And one team had run like a 56 and we had run a 59, but their rock zone was like a minute 48 and ours was like 4:48.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you possibly compare like a standard if your work and run were 2 minutes faster and your transition time was 3 minutes slower? Like you're just hosed then. So I agree we should have the Olympic A standard, but then you have to run on a 400-meter oval every single time. And we don't currently do that. Look at the run outside. The run outside, that could have been a mess.
That would have been ridiculous.
They might have had to actually go up and down stairs to get in and out of the building each time.
There was a ramp for sure.
Yeah. So like, what does that do to time? And that's, if they're so close to being the only standardized thing other than DECA, and yet both of them continually change certain pieces of it, like turf versus concrete. You can't do that if it's time-based. Can you imagine running cinder block versus Mondo?
With the Chris Rogloski example, it's like how far ahead of time did we know that these 4 qualifying events were mandatory? I don't know, Jack. How far in advance did we know this? You have something
Rich would definitely know better than I.
Rich, I bring it up to make a point. So do you know how long, Rich?
It wasn't the full year. Like if they didn't have this ironed out and ready to go right after World Championships, we didn't know where the North American Championships were going to be in. I think for like the last 6 weeks, 4-6 weeks. So with them unveiling where the location was, then it kind of told us about the qualifying standards, because last year was open. You didn't have to run a time before. And I think that still could be the case. Like if Chris could still go to Chicago, she just won't be in the Elite 15 heat. I don't know if that then will eliminate her chances to automatically qualify. So if she went and got a top 3 time in a second heat, I don't know if that would qualify her through. That's something we would have to find out. But I think she could still go and run, but I don't know.
Isn't that similar to what happened with Megiddo, though? Like he ran a really good time in Vegas last year, but he wasn't in that top 15, so he wasn't able to get prize money.
The courses weren't the same.
Okay.
The courses were much, much different. Megiddo's time was probably 3 minutes faster than what it would have been on the championship course.
Okay, later in the day.
The point I'm trying to make is that we have no problem with people showing up on a certain date to go run the Olympic trials, to go make the Olympics. And I understand this isn't the Olympics we're talking about here, but I think if you're just projecting things out and giving people dates on the calendar, and you say, all right, 6 go from North America at the North American champs and 6 go from Europe, and then the committee decides on the other 3 if there's extenuating circumstances, and leave a subjectivity ranking up for like the extra 3, put them all in the same courses so we don't have to have the stupid discussion about slippery sleds and dusty surfaces, and you actually make them show up, and then you give a special exception. They're going to pick worthy 3 to fill in those wild card spots, and you go have a world championship. Simple, done.
I like that.
Not that hard.
Jack, what happens to USA Outdoor Track and Field Championships on Olympic trial cycle years?
Previous champion gets in no matter what, right?
And is there an outdoor national championship and an Olympic trials in the same summer?
Yes, because I went to the U.S. championships in Eugene earlier. Yeah.
And do they have any bearing on each other?
No.
No. And so isn't that kind of what we can do here? Like the North American Championship, it can just have last year's race come into it, and that's fine. It doesn't have to have any outside. And I guess where I want to go with that is that Hyrox from the early on said that we are the opposite of OCR. We want to complement the season, not distract from it. So we are OCR's off season. And so if you look at my partner, who Callie and I plan on defending our North American title this year, she is set to run the Ultra World Championships, which now has become World's Toughest. Well, World's Toughest is kind of the accepted end to the OCR season, that or Abu Dhabi, now that it's in December.
All right.
So if let's just say October or November is the end of the season, can you have the final qualifying event be like a week or two after that? In theory, that should be the first qualifying event starts after that. North American champs shouldn't be until later. North American champs should be the last race before world champs.
So you're saying forget calendar year and go like Spartan model of world champs to world champs?
Well, one or the other, but they said they were going to do opposite of OCR season, but now they're starting to creep back into OCR season, and that's muddying the water. So you have someone who was Chris, reigning world champ, can't make it because of OCR season and other things. Callie, reigning North American team champ, can't make it because of OCR season. You're starting to see the issue when you're not one or the other. And it also is the problem with putting a North American championship in February and the world championship in May, 3 months apart. It's like you kick off the season with something you had to qualify for during the season when you said you weren't going to have races. So I don't want to be too negative on it, but it's starting to not make sense from the formula they originally presented to their audience.
You're right. Hybrid and OCR just have such weird calendars. Just think of every single major ball sport. It's like you play 16 weeks of football, 162 baseball game, whatever, to get to the playoffs. And then whoever does well in the playoffs, which would be the U.S. championship in this case for Hyrox or something, it's very close. And you know that only these people are going to be allowed to continue on to the world championship. Same thing with track and field. It's like you have your national championships in June, and then the Olympics are late July, early August. It's like a very short turnaround, still long enough where you can get in another cycle or so. But yeah, they just have some weird calendars with this. And you're even seeing it in Spartan this year, where the North American Regional Championship in Kelowna was in August, but we have Blue Mountain in October as part of the series, and then Abu Dhabi in December. It's like, we've got to get our calendars more normal. Yeah,
and what Hyrox shouldn't do is try to emulate or go off of what Spartan does for the calendars in any way, because Spartans is not thoughtful, right? It's not, and at least Hyrox is like half the season a championship, the rest of the other half of the season a championship. So it's more like a mid-season championship is what they're having. Or Bracken, I like what you were saying. Like when you if you qualify at the Olympic trials and you had then the Olympics, like it's going to be, you may have time for one race in between that, right? It's kind of like a progression toward the big race, so you can periodize your training to be there. Where now it's a little tough. Like last year it didn't work out very well between the US and Europeans, because our championship was like mid-January, and then theirs wasn't until late March or early April, I think. So, and that's where a lot of really fast times were run, was at their European championship. And then we had our biggest race was already over that would drive people to compete at a higher level.
Well, and why do people have trials rather than selection committees? The reason is so that you get whoever is fastest at championship season to go represent you in the championship. It's not for parity, even though they like to say anyone can happen. Yeah, sure, that helps with parity, but it's really so that you don't get people who pop a race in the off season and can't time their cycle to compete for your country when it counts.
Right.
They want people who are ready to rage at that moment. And that's why you have the Olympic trials when you do. So one of the issues with trying to do the Olympic marathon trials is because they make them run a full marathon, and then they have to have it so far before the marathon that you have that much time to get out of shape or get injured or just not regain that fitness. So selection committee for marathon makes sense, but trials for almost anything else that's not so long is the way to do it, but only if you're testing what's about to occur. You can't test 4 months in advance and say, yeah, I guarantee you guys are all going to be healthy or fit by then. And people who are timing their fitness for Worlds maybe can't even show their fitness at a trial that's 3 months earlier because they're not even in that competition phase.
Yeah. We've seen.
Man, what do you think would be? What do you think would be ideal seasons? Like if we could have a dream world and we put events that are hybrid and under roofs from November to March or April, and then we go play in the mud from April or May to October, and you probably get higher event participation at every single event because there's phases of events. Would something like that work? It's never going to happen, of course, but like
we have this fascination. We don't have a fascination with it. The OCR industry has a fascination with late fall, early winter championship events, and it's nonsensical to me because you have it happen right after the kids go back to school. So that limits a lot of people's travel, and right when the weather gets super unpredictable, which some people say, yeah, that's the point of OCR. Well, I don't know if it really is. I think it makes sense that in the warm weather months, you have OCR. And in the cold weather months, you have hybrid because it's indoors. And it's really, really easy to do that. Cut it off. Fall starts, hybrid. Spring ends or kicks up, OCR comes into play. That's kind of simple.
And I think that would work for right now where the sports are the athletes are still kind of in both. And I think in 3 to 5 years, the athletes are going to be so different that I don't think the two seasons need to consider what the other sport is doing at all. I think it's just what works best.
At the pro end, yes. But the pro end is buoyed by the open waves, which are the same people for like 75% of it. It's the same people you see out there. So I agree with what you're saying on the pro end. The top 15, those elite 15, those are going to change drastically over the next half decade. But the everyman coming out to do it, it's still not primarily CrossFitters.
That's already happened in the top 15 in Hyrox Worlds last year. On the men's side, who is still going in the mud and playing with their friends on any serious level? Like 0 out of 15, right?
No one.
Or am I missing somebody? So isn't that it's already done that on the pro side? But yeah, it's like those. I mean, you guys program
Chris
for
Rogowski,
athletes.
he does.
Chris might be it. Yeah. And I guess, yeah. So basically it's like we program for athletes and we know how much they all do it all. I have athletes doing ultras and DecaFit and Hyrox, like half of them. Don't you guys? It's like, that's how these companies are going to keep progressing forward, is getting those people in the door.
Yeah. I was also going to bring up the weather part that you mentioned, Bracken, where once it gets cold, these are indoor events. It just makes sense. It's just somewhere to hold them during the rest of the year. And I agree. You're not teaching to the test when you have unpredictability for your championship, or when they're like, yeah, I know that all beasts were 13 miles. Let's make it 16 for the championship. And, now we're going to have the chance of having really bad weather. It's not teaching to the test. So as much crap as we give Hyrox for having unpredictability with like the sleds and stuff, you still know you're going to get the same type of general format every single time. You're going to have 1,000 meters. You're going to have some workout zones, same order. And OCR kind of screws it up right there with their variability and their timing throughout the season.
Yeah, and our industry is too small to support them both in the same season, I believe. If you're a race who the difference between 2,000 competitors and 3,500 is the difference between breaking even and not, you just don't want competition. Having a Hyrox Worlds and Big Bear on the same weekend could not have helped either company. Spartan owns Deca. You wouldn't want, if you own two products, you wouldn't want them cannibalizing each other. Apple's famous for making sure that their products don't cannibalize from each other. So why would you put a Deca and make people choose on the same weekend between a Super and a Deca? It seemed like just from a business standpoint, if you have skin in the game, and this is only a couple 100,000 people throughout the entire nation who want to do this, you should probably give them the chance to do as many as they can unimpeded, just so that you can sustain. I don't care if you want to work with Hyrox if you're Spartan. Who cares? Don't lose your competitors to them, and vice versa.
Well, I think it's fine to have events year round, both hybrid space and outdoors. I mean, you have the southern half of the country. Spartan needs to eat. It's warm in February, January, December. That's fine to put those events, but don't put weight on them. Let them go be the funsies. And maybe Hyrox has an event in the summer and it's a qualifier to get into something, but the weight on it's pretty small, right? I mean, you understand these companies have to make money, but I just think like confining the races that matter into a shorter amount of time. Well, like Savage did a great job of that. Short, compact, sweet. I mean, what was Spartan's season? February to I guess this would be December.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's an 11 or 10 month season. It's just absolutely asinine. But I think there's reasonability to wanting to run races year round. It's just there is a season, there is an off season. Races mean something at this time of year, and they don't at others. But it's okay to go play still.
Doesn't Savage have a really long season? They don't have as many events, but they're still like once a month roughly throughout the year.
But if you miss it, it doesn't matter, right? It's just maybe that one paycheck that you miss.
And they did front load their first ever series this year. They were all in the spring, like
all in the spring,
very close, within 3 to 4 weeks of each other, back to back to back. And now you've got a champion. Go proceed on the rest of your year.
Mm-hmm.
Not to go down this, I want to deflect to you, Bracken, real quick, and we're probably spending way too much time on this. I understand that, but okay, Bracken, you were the OG, you're the OG of the group. Who, like, there was once upon a time OCR had a concise season for you. You opened in Montana in May, and you ended at Tahoe or somewhere else in September. I mean, you had a what's May, June, July, August, September, to 5-month season. You were through seasons of that. How did that flow work? Was that actually helpful, or was it just the only option, so it didn't matter?
Well, what we saw then in that year, and I think the year prior, was that you didn't have people have to pick and choose when they were going to race and get into shape. That year, you put in a big winter of training. I used all spring to just work on extending my speed, and then as summer approached, I got specific, and then you felt like, all right, I have such a build up of fitness here. I can race hard for a couple months, take a little down low cycle here, and prep for Worlds, because there was still a gap between the last race and Worlds. It was just really nice then everyone showed up to every race and they were all pretty much ready to rock and roll. Mm-hmm. Like, if you give someone until May, they don't have to do what the world champ Killian did one year, which is, I might just suck for 4 months. Like, that wasn't fun for anyone to watch. His fans were rabid about him, and they were not enjoying watching him take 6 through 12. And the people that didn't like him, well, they want him up in the mix anyways, so you can cheer against him. Like, you want the villains and the heroes to be good at the same time. It's no fun when someone's like, well, I'm throwing the first half of the season because we have a 10.5-month season. Mm-hmm. So yeah, to your point, I think a compact season heightens the season, and then it gives you chances to do other things throughout.
Would anybody give a shit about football as much as they do if it was 48 week season? Like, isn't there something beautiful about the 16 weeks or 17 weeks plus the playoffs, right? It's all in and then all out. I think it's
the issue with baseball. Mm-hmm. The issue with baseball isn't the length of games, I don't think. It's the length of the season.
100%.
Because someone can be dominant for 2.5 months and miss the playoffs. The Brewers this year were fantastic for like 35 games, and they're going to miss the playoffs. Can you imagine being good for 35 games at a professional level, maybe the best, and not make the playoffs? Like, what are you even judging at that point? When do you start trying hard? When do you start working on like your good sets, your good plays, your good fitness? When do you start doing that? It's almost like a roll of the dice. Who's going to be healthy by the time the end comes around?
It's just who can deal with attrition the most at that point.
Yeah. I think we're all on the same page.
I'm going to say something that's going to be unpopular, I have a feeling, as I'm thinking this out, and maybe I'll get some flack for this, but in my opinion, as we're chatting this out and I'm thinking back, like, is it just me, or does it feel like every world championship besides a select few has meant less and less every year in the last 3 to 4 years? Like, there's just so many things going on in so many directions, and it's always, but this person is focusing on this year. And I feel like they just don't mean as much as they used to because of the delusion of fields at times. Do you guys agree with that at all? Because it's always been a but at almost everything, other than maybe Hyrox world champs this last year, where I think everybody who was truly a player showed up, but I can't think of the other ones where we didn't say things like that.
How many world championships have existed through the years? You know, from 2011 to 13, the first 3 years, it was only Spartan, and then 14 OCR Worlds showed up. And then it was just Spartan and OCR Worlds, but then OCR Worlds added a 3K a couple of years later. So now you had 3. And then I guess 2019 or 20 was the first Hyrox World Championship. And now you're adding DECA this year. Yeah, it is getting more and more throughout the year. I think that's a solid point.
It doesn't take away from who wins and who performs well. But for me, like, I used to get up for the Spartan Race World Championships. It was like a Super Bowl on my calendar to either watch, check in, like all these things. And now I'm like, well, which championship is it this weekend?
Right.
Maybe I'll make it a point. Maybe I'll check in. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Maybe I'm a one-man island over here, but that's how I feel a little
Should they get rid of the word championship unless it's the world championship? Like regional championship has that in there. The North American Elite Series has a champion. Like, do you think that just getting rid of that phrasing might help a little bit?
I don't think
give it
so.
like tiers.
Because the North American Championship mattered when it was in West Virginia as the penultimate race to the World Championship.
Mm-hmm.
When they moved it to a place that was
August, a month before World Championship.
When they moved it to a place out of order in the season and it was hard to get to, it didn't matter anymore to a lot of people.
Right.
It's like, what is it, the North American Championship, if I still have to go back and race another National Series race and I can even win the National Series without coming to this? Like, it was just as soon as they changed the order, the wording stopped mattering. Like,
That's where I get hung up. Exactly.
So, but there has to be a natural progression through it. And I believe if you shorten the National Series in duration, you're going to see all the local events, the ranks swell up. Because if you have to do a 6-race series that goes from February through September, plus
October.
Worlds, you know that you're going to have to get your training really pretty precise to arrive at all of those fit and ready to race in October, November, December. But if you put it from May through August, now suddenly it's like, why wouldn't I go race all these local races now? Because it's available to me. So I think one way to solve the participation problem is actually to shorten the U.S. National Series duration, not number of races necessarily, but duration, so that everyone goes and does their local race. Like, when's the last time any of us did more than, I don't know, 1 to 3 races in a year that weren't part of some sort of championship or series or big emphasis? We're 0 for 4 on this panel.
And
that's not
age
encouraging.
groupers do the same. They've got the same amount of events in their series. They're probably only doing that for the most part.
But I know for sure that back in the day when it was May through whatever that mattered, we were off hitting stadiums and sprints and supers early in the season. People were heading to Hawaii and doing races. People were heading overseas because you had time to play around with training and fitness and races.
Elliot McGuire doing like 40 races in a year.
Yeah. So I can't say for sure that would work, but it would at least give people the freedom in their schedule to do other things.
You imagine if the NFL held the playoffs in like week 10, and then they're like, well, no, we're still gonna have 6 more games after this that really don't mean anything, and then we'll throw the Super Bowl at the end still, but we're gonna refer back to the playoffs we played in week 10. It's kind of what's happening.
The NBA's trying it. Someone keeps bringing up a midseason playoff every year, and Mark Cuban this year is like, if you do it, I'm not even sending our team. I'll pay their fines. We're staying home. Or we'll send our team, and I'm not playing any of our starters.
They got to figure out a way to incentivize that appropriately for the players.
No one wants to do championships until the championship season. And 100%. No one wants a season to be 10 months long.
If we're going to tie this back into Hyrox, do you think that the order 1, 2, 3, say 5 people from the U.S., both genders, end up making the World Championship? Do you think the order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we see at the U.S. Championship is the order of those athletes within their own country at the World Championship? Probably not, because you have that 3+ month gap in between the 2 events. So, yeah, it's just too long of a season.
Yeah, it's better than it was last year in terms of qualifications, to get some automatic there, to get a little bit of the ability to race your way into it, like having some sort of heats. I wish
they reacted appropriately to that, which is commendable. We don't always see that in this space.
Yes. And I think there's some ways to go. Like, I like pushing that back, or I think they actually did have the European Championship is pretty close to the same time as the North American Championship, which is great. So we'll have an idea of who will go and then who needs to really gear up for the other regional races so they can qualify on time. And that's something with Chris. If they don't let her in, which I doubt that'll be the case, I bet they'll let her in. She can still qualify on time at Dallas in the spring or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. European Hyrox Championship is in the Netherlands in January. So, yep.
Great.
Checks out.
And if we wanted to go, I could qualify in the Netherlands if I get over there and then come back and try again.
Oh,
in Chicago.
How far apart are those 2 events? What are the exact dates?
4 to 5 weeks, probably.
Oh, okay, so it's sizable.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. I think it's gonna be better long term, but yeah, I would like to see maybe some more automatic qualifiers. I would like to see some sort of time standard, even though I know these courses they're not always going to be the same. And that's one of the main issues. Before we get into drafting, talking about some of the players that were going to be there, they've made some adjustments to the sleds. Did we pay attention to the sled times in New York? Bracken, did you take a look?
Yeah, you saw a lot of people in the 2s on the push and in the 4s on the pull.
Fast. Yeah, it was fast on the push.
So what is the adjustment? Is it handle height?
The handle height's different. And
because that's what they brought in last year is the handle height they were going to implement at Worlds or at LA and then at Worlds in preparation for the 2022-23 season.
I think there's something to do with the actual sleds themselves. Magida actually sent me this clip at the CrossFit Games. They had an event where they're pushing a sled. It was called the alpaca sled. They had like kettlebells in this sled, and it was outside in Wisconsin. So again, weather played a factor, and there was going to be some sort of rope climb in the middle of like this sled push, kettlebell, rope climb triplet they were going to do. But it was raining, so they had to eliminate the rope climb just for safety measures. So to make the event harder, they took paint thinner and went to the bottom of the sleds and wiped all the paint from the bottoms of their sleds. So to make it grippier. So there may have just been a discrepancy in terms of like the newness or the paint style on the bottom of these sleds that were different in Europe and in the United States. And I think now they're just all the same sleds because the weight, even we saw the bumper plates that we saw, that was a theory. Like maybe it's the stack height that's getting in the way. Maybe it's the handle height.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just like the weight itself. Maybe they're just pushing less over there. But whatever they did, these New York sled times were the fastest times that we've seen.
I watched obviously the entire thing, and that launch angle of their foot up through their connection point to the sled looked much higher up in the air. It looked like a way bigger angle. There was, I don't even know what the difference would be, but I would guess that there was somewhere between 4 and 6 extra inches of handle height compared to in the past. Because it was noticeable always how short it was, and you didn't notice it this year.
They were abnormally short. They're like, what's the matter with these handles? Who's using this sled? No sled had handles that short. So yeah, that's going to be different. That'll be different at every event.
You would think the contact point with the surface of the floor would be the biggest change, wouldn't you? Because where you're going to get any resistance there. So that would make sense. Playing with the paint or the coating on that, right, would make as bigger difference than what the actual floor is, or it could make as big of a difference, huh?
Because the floor is the same. They right. Know that the floor is the same.
Yeah.
But how same is it? Did they get new carpet for this year, or is it last year's carpet? We
saw
that degrade over the course of the season as well.
It does, but like they're still ordering like the same model of carpet, right? Where I think the sleds were actually different models of sleds. They're just putting the same amount of weight on it and being like, well, I don't know. But it was just.
And you imagine if I don't know if you guys looked at the bottom of the sleds, but I have to imagine at points that paint is just sort of chipping off in places on the bottom, and imagine what sort of resistance that causes on the friction scale on the bottom at certain events. So cleaning that up makes sense.
They should probably just strip it. It's just
standard rogue. Yeah, the standard rogue sled has a runner on the bottom, I believe. My sled has a hard plastic runner on the bottom. I don't know if that's standard or not. But I mean, I've tested several things, as I'm sure Rich, you have as well, and Jack, that stacking height of the weights does matter. The surface you're on does matter. But the single biggest difference that matters is how high you put your hands on the poles. As soon as I measured where they were at and made the mark on my sled, it took my basement sled from it just doesn't feel right to, oh my goodness, this is how it feels in competition, just by lowering it down like 7 inches. So the contact point would matter for sure. Think of the difference between carpet and turf and concrete. But that handle height is every bit of the difference maker.
And that's why I see like the different forms where some people are like wrapping themselves around the weight to move that contact point where their feet closer to the sled and just easier to push that way. You saw some people up high, like pushing it at their shoulders and doing really well.
But they're not doing it on shoulder with their back like this now. They're doing it like this.
Right.
And that is really, that really matters.
So if you do like a really low sled push, where you're going to be going a lot slower than if you're able to get in a much higher position for sure. And we're talking about sled push. the pulls were definitely faster as well. We saw some times in like the low 4s and stuff, and that's not typical. I think the biggest thing with that was they changed it to 12.5 meters instead of 25 meters. You just have way less slack, and that's just going to result in faster times throughout the season versus in the past when it used to be 25.
We've seen that for a while, though.
It's been 12 for a while.
I know, but if we're looking at historical data in the U.S., typically it's been a little bit slower. But I guess this was a fast venue. When you're comparing 12.5 to 12.5s.
Multiple sub 2 rocks times.
That was short. The runs were a little long.
Yes. Yeah. You've got to be able to.
They're doing an okay job with that. Like, I think the rock zone, you can kind of get stuck in there and like just mentally. So I think if it's longer, it will be slower just because you're like, let me get my shit together before I get out on the run course. So I think a short rock zone does play a factor, and they're never going to be exactly, so they'll account for it, right? If the rock zone is shorter, they'll make the runs a little bit longer just so you're getting a full 8K. I think they're doing as good of a job as possible, but I don't think they're nailing it every single time. And Jack, on that point with the faster sled pulls, I would argue that a faster, easier sled push will just give people more energy for better sled pulls. I don't think they're going to change much on that. It seems like they added too much weight onto the New York sled pull. On the photos, it looks like 300 pounds, where I think it should be, 275, 280 or something like that.
I had a few people I coach that were there, and one, she took second in her age group.
Nice.
Dory. She's Dory Kirshner. She's a monster, and she excels on the stations, and she had way more trouble on the sled pull than she's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
She also ran an extra lap prior to that, but I'm not buying that blew her up as much as the extra weight did.
Yeah, I think, and the rope's a little stretchy. If you're not ready to deal with that, if you're getting your first time on it, it's hard to kind of replicate that rope too. So let's start talking about who's going to do well, who we think we're going to do well. So we had this idea of doing like a season-long Dynasty league for this draft, where we're just going to take the top 3 times from whatever athlete we draft, and then the score that they get will be just the average of the 3 times that they get. And then once we have that average, then we can score it cross-country style. Does that make sense? Are we good on that?
We're just doing.
And how did championships play into it?
Good question. What was your question, Jack?
We're just doing straight up times. Basically what Bracken was going to say, like once times are irrelevant and it's a championship, does place kind of take over in that situation?
How can we yes, I think that there needs to be that. So we could either just do standalone games or drafts or whatever for championships, or it could be like some sort of amplifier, or like you could add points to someone else's score. Like if I drafted someone who won the North American Championship, then I get 5 points to disperse to you guys or something, or it takes off a minute or a certain amount of time from my aggregate at the end, or from whatever person. Any ideas on this?
I could come up with something, just not right now.
Okay.
Number wise,
I could come up with something sweet too at a different time.
Thanks for your help, guys.
We'll let you give your analysis first. Next time we'll compare.
All right, December after Spartan World Championships, I'll be ready.
Okay.
Can't even think about Hyrox yet, guys. I'm in OCR mode.
Well, you better start because we're breaking out the wheel. Kirk, I don't know if you saw this, but
one other thing, are we drafting one gender at a time, or are we doing it just like we do for our OCR draft, where you can pick, you have to pick a guy and a girl first 2 rounds, and then it's a free for all after that?
Look at this wheel.
I don't think we do that for
slow.
Look at that
How
wheel.
pretty it is, though, Kirk. Full screen, black background.
Upgrade since you've been gone. Jack,
we were so excited to show you, and all we got from you was that's so slow.
Come on. I just want you to push the button. No, I didn't even notice this is different than
it's
previous.
Oh, man.
So we're just going to draft however men or women,
Yeah.
throughout the whole time, right?
Let's do it.
I feel like a little kid who ran home from school with his artwork for his dad, and his dad's like, "Well, that's not to scale.
Do better." Yeah.
Is that how you feel?
Yeah,
I
we were so
see
excited.
a wheel.
You don't know how
I'm so
excited
sorry.
we were for this new wheel.
But it's the same wheel. It's just cleaned up, right?
Oh my god.
Oh, Rich.
I
So
get
sorry,
it.
fellas.
I take the first pick. Or let me get I don't know what to do. Let me think about it. Let me get the second pick. I want the second pick.
No, you have to choose.
I chose second pick. Looks like the corral.
Oh, good.
Well, Triple D, what do you want to do?
Here's the thing: is I'm fairly worthless when it comes to the insight on some of these draft picks coming up. That doesn't play into what we should do, but I feel like I'm going to heavily rely on you to decide on some of these picks because I think you know the athletes a little better than I do.
I wrote you all these notes.
No, and your notes were very helpful, especially in your regard, Rich. But
Can I read?
We learned a lot.
We did. I don't think it's a check mark in the positive column, Rich.
No, that's just weight.
It's just drag weight. I think we should go. I think we should go first, but I'm not married to it.
First. Well, yeah, I say we either go first or third.
Well,
That's those are the options that you have.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
You guys are on board with that?
Yep,
Yeah.
that checks out.
Yep.
So we're doing
Tell you what. Let's go third.
Whatever Jack wants, let's do that. Jack, what do you want?
I
Let's
want
go
whichever
third.
one you
I want
guys
back
want.
to back. I think we can get back to back world champs at third.
All
Really?
right.
I'll be curious to see who you think's got that going on. All right, fine. Third.
So we're gonna do
You're going third.
3 men, 3 women, wild card, 7 total. Do we want to do more?
Wouldn't
How do
that be
you feel about
9 total?
3 men, 3 women, and a wild
Oh,
card?
never mind. 7. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I was
got
like,
it.
oh my god, am I
Math.
terrible at math?
Bracken's rubbing off on me is what it is. He's slowly
You should be so
diluting me.
lucky.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what we're gonna do: 3 men, 3 women, wild card, and then this is all year, so we'll be able to check back in. Maybe we'll think about trades. We'll figure out about
Yeah,
a
we'll
waiver
introduce
wire.
some trades.
Yeah, this will be fun. We'll have a whole team.
So let me.
This
So
is,
we're just looking at the. What are we looking at as far as order goes? Like we have them down 1 through. I don't know how many you have on here. 20 or so. What's the relevance to the how these are ordered here?
They're relatively ordered to seed up to a certain
Just
level.
seeded. Okay.
Yeah, the people, most of the people toward the top were ones who qualified for the Elite 15 last year. And then if there's not, there's special circumstances around some, like, Lauren Weeks is ranked really high. She didn't do that well at the World Championships last year. I think she was 9th, but she was like 7 months pregnant. And they have some, like, the people that are a little bit more uncertain down toward the bottom that we don't quite know a ton about or who are new this year. So it's relatively seeded.
Do we have any
Richie
room
spelled
for?
Gunner's name.
What's
Do we
that?
have any room for athletes who are not on our radar at all and end up showing up to events, or we have somebody else, or like Hunter gets on a whim and changes his mind, or like, is there any room for that where we can make some sort of exception situation? Should we address that, or should we just not worry about that right now?
Like there should be some sort of waivers period, maybe like once every other month or something like that. We can have or
So
we get a
Hunter's
certain.
done.
Apparently.
Well, that's the case. That's what we'll have to talk about. If you want to draft them, you get to draft them.
Well, I'm the number 1 pick. That kind of is going to affect things. Like, do you guys know anything?
Welcome to our world.
I give a lot
He's
of
not on the
info
list, huh, Rich?
How about it? How about that? I don't know. I don't have them down. I don't expect if we're going to see them, it would probably be at the North American Championships and at World Championships, and that might be it. If they let the previous world champion into, or we'll see him in one race in the spring where he'll get his time and be at the World Championships. Either way, he needs. I would assume most athletes are going to have to run 3 races, like a race to qualify to the championship, and the World Championship. And probably, I'm imagining most people are going to run 3 to 5 races. You could draft him, but if he only runs 2 races, that's not good.
Why?
Because you need 3 to qualify. You need 3 times to qualify for your score.
I don't like the scoring.
We had a discussion 2 seconds ago. It's too late. Now it's over. Those are the rules now.
All right. I'm just.
I will say the waiver period, to interrupt, I think the waiver period, if we do have to run into a situation like that, shouldn't be decided by the wheel of names, though. It should be like a 4-person mile time trial, fastest time, first pick. So something you really earn. We can't leave something like that up to chance if we get a sniper coming in and the obvious favorite or an obvious
Or we
good
could all
pick.
We could all do the Decadog and then
Decadog 5K.
Anything like that. Just saying.
Yeah, I think so too. How we're gonna figure out the waivers? Yeah, we'll work on that. It's a good thing to bring up now.
I think we should all have to do a hybrid event,
Fair.
and that sets waiver wire for the year.
How about order of Deca Fit World Championship finish? We'll do that.
Are you in?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
He's in there, baby.
Congratulations, Jack.
Jack on site will be in Atlantic City.
It's unfortunate for a couple people who can't make it. Like Dade Collins got in a really serious accident, so he's in the hospital still recovering. He's an arborist and he fell out of a tree from what it looked like, and he broke his back. So he definitely got messed up. So I feel really bad about that. And then I think Glenn decided he's only doing the mile instead of fit, so I took his spot.
You were in that spot as much as any of those people. Don't let any of that
sure.
fool you. deserve to be there, Jack.
There's going to be some scheduling, with World's Toughest and some of the Spartan stuff. Maybe not all the athletes will show.
Show up like Rich and
I'm just
snipe
mentioning
the championship. Rich just showed up to Hyrox Worlds and just proved he belonged.
I'm
exactly
going to pull a Dylan Scott.
Yeah.
Surprise some people.
Yeah, you got time, baby. You've been in the lab. I know it.
You want to draft Dylan Scott?
Yeah.
I want to draft Jack Bauer.
Number one.
I didn't put him on the list. All right, we'll figure out the waivers situation. Right. Maybe it's some sort of Deca Dog 5K.
Yeah.
Who are you drafting, Jack?
I'm doing Lauren Weeks.
Okay. All right.
Only thing we can't see, how far do the names go down on the men's side there?
A little bit.
Brent and Thiago Lusa below him.
That's
Chris.
all we can't see. Okay.
Just let me know if you want them.
Yep. Okay.
This is not as sophisticated as Jack's system. Oh, that's not wrong. Even the wrong person in them.
Yeah. Do you want to put like a 1 next to the person just so we know what draft pick they were?
Okay. Yeah. So Jack, tell us why you wanted to draft Lauren here.
Because she's not pregnant anymore, and I think that she is, without knowledge of if Hunter's going to compete, I feel like Lauren probably has the best chance of winning a world championship among everybody. There's just so much good competition within both fields, to be honest. But I think on her best day, Lauren is probably the most unbeatable athlete on either of these lists. And without carrying a baby, that's going to make her even faster. And we saw what she did in Deca Fit recently, like just set the record there. And I mean, she's Lauren Weeks. I'd be stupid not to pick her.
She's really seemed to figure something out in these past like year and a half or so. Even going back and looking at some of the previous results, where a lot of her times were like 68, 69, 67s, and then that she's really committed to the endurance piece. Even we saw her at Spartan Games, a lot of endurance events there. She's doesn't shy away from that now. Must be in part of her training. She knows how to do it. She's figured out something on the race course as well. Like her style of racing is really intimidating now. So I like it. I think she's going to be really strong this year. I good pick, Jack.
And is she like,
I do.
I believe the year she was world champ, 2021, like she was still dabbling a little bit with like running a traditional Spartan race and doing like, she's
Spartan
really,
games.
this is probably she did Spartan Games, but she was still doing stuff. And I feel like now look at her Instagram, like she's like committed, like a dialed in Lauren Weeks, who now is like she wasn't specifically training, I don't think, for Hyrox all of 2021, from my understanding. And so I just think she's even more dangerous. I don't think there's another choice out there.
I think so too. And like one of the
rub on her field as well.
You think so? Pure
I'm
runner?
looking at all the stats that I pulled up my Hyrox cheat sheet for the World Championship last year, and she's the fastest women's runner in the field.
Oh, over 8K in a Hyrox? Okay.
Yep. That matters in a Hyrox, I'd say.
She's the best mod.
She has the best mod. Her mod is really, really
We talked about that earlier, actually, in the mod episode.
Who's Miss Mod?
Miss Mod. Yeah. That is her. That is true. Yeah, because the rub on her in previous races where she kind of gave it back in like the sleds at a certain point, she seemed to have cleared that up, just practiced on it. And I asked her one time, like, why, like, what's up with the sled? She's like, oh, I just haven't practiced. So like, she's practiced, she knows how to do them now, and she'll be good to go. All right.
She's got that mom power now. Also, a lot of people have a really good first year after that, especially in the running community.
True that. I'm going, dude. Taking Ryan Kent. Me, my guy here.
Yep.
It's hard to bet against him.
with the absence of Hunter's, assuming that Hunter won't be here. I mean, Kent is next in line. He was second last year at the World Championships, beat him outright at the North American Championships. Is going to have a full another year of just straight up hybrid training, where he was kind of transitioning out of OCR and into hybrid stuff like last year or the year before that. So now he's just a hybrid athlete. He's kind of paving the way. If there's a year for him, it's this one.
Tip of the hat to him. Like, dude, Mr. Consistent. What else do you even call the dude at this point? Every time he shows up, he's competing for the win. He's progressively gotten better at like a reasonable rate. And he always shows up and takes care of business. Kent doesn't flop. Like, at worst, you're getting a third out of this dude if he has, the flu and shows up. I just feel like this dude is just dialed. Mr. Consistent. Can you guys think of a race in which he went and laid an egg other than his beginning years? Right. Other than his early races when he was feeling things out early on, I can't think of in the last year where he's shown up and not hit expectations.
Not in a hybrid race.
No.
Yeah.
He's the only American other than Hunter who is almost guaranteed to go sub 60 every time he touches a course on American soil, which I believe is worth 55, 56 over in Europe oftentimes. So if this is based around time, he's the only American right now who's guaranteed to be racing and guaranteed to be fast.
Mm-hmm.
His name I didn't have on here is Rylands. Go ahead and put him on here.
Is he committed to hitting him?
He's going to do LA.
Same as VJ, same as Veerman.
So is VJ, so is Veerman. I'm not sure what we'll see out of those two in terms of the long time. We'll put them on the list. And then
This is the year. Sleds have changed. Even just a 10% difference in sleds is a massive difference maker.
You can get away with OCR strength at that point, maybe.
Almost.
Yeah. You're not going to fake 100 wall balls with OCR strength, but
no, I don't think VJ, as great as he is at OCR, is going to come out and smash this, but I think Ryland has the potential to.
Yeah, I agree.
I think last year he wouldn't have been able to come out and smash. I think he would have been able to come out and do mid 60s. I think now he can come out and run 60 low with this type of setup.
I agree. I think that he'll be a factor if he chooses to be and wants to pursue it. I think he'll do really well.
If VJ breaks 70, I'm going to be really proud of him.
70? Okay.
Yeah, truly. I think that'll be good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we didn't draft Ryland. We drafted Kent because Kent's that guy. He's that dude this year. Corral, you're up.
Kirk, do you have any strong feelings?
I mean, I got some players that I think we're both going to rattle around here in our heads. Picking two is tough. One's a wild card, considering we don't know if Chris can race, for example, to get that against the former world champ, or was it a fluke? She's proven that nothing is a fluke with her. Yeah. And then you got the wild card of Ryland committing or not committing. Like, that's a big deal. We don't know how many races he's running, but he's proven to be great in the hybrid space. He will learn as he goes. So I can babble more, but what do you think, Bracken?
Well, I think that the way this is set up, where time matters over almost anything else and availability of races, I think it makes sense to do Europeans because they don't do OCR. They're going to run early and often, and they always run fast over there.
So Tobias jumps right out at you, I assume.
I would take Tobias and Linda, or Tobias and Tim, or Tobias and Alex. People that you know are going to have top 5 times on the year, and we can snag 2 of them right away.
I think Tobias his trajectory is only going the right way as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's take
Tobias
Tobias
before the World Championship, right? Is that why you missed
What'd you say?
Didn't you get COVID?
He had a really severe case of COVID. It was almost kind of gave him like Bell's palsy or something. Like, he had some sort of really severe side effect, and he just couldn't make it over. Yeah,
I like that, Bracken. Tobias, let's do it.
And then there's a lot of other options, but to stay away from our typical side, let's pick not all one gender.
Then we go with Linda. Let me hold on.
Yeah.
What do we think? I guess I don't. As far as the scoring goes, I'm a little confused because some of these events, like if you have a European event versus a North American event, like for example, like an Alyssa Hawley who's committed to this, could she? I mean,
we're talking time.
The way that New York played out, it's encouraging. Like, I feel encouraged that the times are going to be more even this year.
You don't think it'll be a European slant? You really don't?
Not as much.
But I believe Europe won't get worse. We'll just get faster.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have known commodities who are going to run 63, 62 maybe. And then we have people who have run 68, 69. Can they drop down? How much do they drop down is the question.
So if you're going on time, how would you not pick the current world record holder?
That's why I'm leaning that way. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Linda Meyer.
But yeah, she has really improved a ton. Like almost, you can't say enough about her improvement. And finishing second at the World Championships last year, and then coming out and breaking Lauren Weeks' record in her first race this year is kind of scary. I don't know a ton about her intangibles, but like she is locked and loaded when it comes to Hyrox and Hyrox prep. So
she looked good doing it. Now, typically the winner of Hyrox looks better than anyone else, but the winner still has to suffer. And she looked good doing it. And that, to me, that does matter.
Jack, you'll know this. What's Linda Meyer's background of sport?
I actually don't.
Oh,
She played some sports in Germany. So.
she did the things and stuff before this. Got it.
Yep.
Cool. Shocking, actually, Jack. I felt like you would have known that.
Yeah.
I teed you up.
I know. I should.
You shot an air ball.
So not only do we have two good time trialers, Kirk, but we have two people with world championship podium and or titles. So they've shown they can do both. This is why I wanted that 3-4 spot.
good picks. Pretty good picks,
That's
guys.
what I wanted. 3-4.
Pretty good picks.
Who would you have taken there,
gonna be a
Jack? Would
while,
you have
though.
taken those same two?
Or
Or would you have gone for a younger
It all
European
depended
guy?
on. I was assuming that Lauren and Kent were gone. Yeah, those probably would have been the two that I would have taken.
Okay.
Linda, I definitely would have taken Toby. Linda, most likely, but there was someone else who I probably would have, who I was considering, and I'll wait till Rich is done.
I'm
I
going to
think
take.
I know who you're going to take, but we'll see.
I'm going to go ahead and take Mirjam van Roer here.
That's what I thought Jack was going to take.
Um,
You see high level CrossFitter
wasn't
and you
saying
start
it.
salivating.
Yeah, last year was really her first year on the scene, and she came out and won the European Championships, beat Viola Oberlander, and ended up third at the World Championships. And I would just chalk that up just to a lack of experience. Like I think she was probably the most fit person there that day. Based off of her CrossFit ability, I thought she was like in like the top 50 worldwide after the Open, but she chose this route. She didn't continue to go down the semifinals or the quarterfinals to the semifinals, which she clearly should have. So she has big ability to do work. It's just going to be a matter of how well she improves her running out there.
If this year was any other year that we've already seen, I think I would have taken her over Linda. Same thing on the guy side. I would reward people with big power. And this year I'm going to lean a little bit into more running ability, I think.
Yeah. Right. And in that first race in Basel where Linda did break the record, she beat Mirjam, like straight up.
How much? Do you know?
A minute and a half, maybe?
Minute and a half.
Yeah. So, and it could just be a matter of timing. Like it's very impressive for Linda to come out and run a PR and a world record in her first race, but what's that mean for her longevity for this season? Like, can we project that she'll have that trajectory the whole time, or is Mirjam going to be better at kind of picking her spots when it's needed to? And the race in
theory,
September doesn't matter.
All she has to do is keep getting faster. And in not knowing her, if she's a traditional CrossFitter, going from like 2 runs a week to 4 is going to have a lot of new gains in there.
That's basically that's what I feel like happened to Lauren Weeks.
Yeah. So she has a big ceiling theoretically.
Jack, who you got?
All right. Yeah, a lot of big names off the board at this point. I think I'm going to go with Viola. Because according to my list last year, if you take out transition time and just look at the rest of the race, she had the fastest net time right there. I believe she was second place at World Championships twice, wasn't she?
Maybe twice.
Like 20 and 21, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, like the elite.
The Berlin one.
And was she second? I think she was second at like that elite 12 or whatever they did, the COVID year.
Yeah, I thought 20 and 21. But yeah, she performs. And yeah, she's just really, really good. And Bracken, you were mentioning the take out the sled, or like how fast you were as just a pure runner at that point. Was that kind of what you were leaning in on?
In a way, yeah. Yeah, the people that maybe weren't able to access some of their running in the past might have it right back to them this year.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Because if you take, she's like kind of mid-pack as a runner. She's still under 35 for her 8K right there. But I just think the results that she's put up through the years and her world championship performance, she's going to be with this sport. It just makes sense to take her.
Mm-hmm.
She's a pretty impressive athlete overall. I think she has a gymnastics background, so she's like a very well-rounded athlete. A matter of her is just like when is she going to win it, right? She's just that on the second place on a lot of it. And like we saw her kind of collapse a little bit at the European Championships at the very end and the World Championships last year. I mean, there couldn't have been a more wide open race, honestly. And then for Viola to I think she got like 8th. I think she did an extra lap and just like didn't perform how you want to see someone perform. So she's just on that brink of being a champion. She hasn't really broken through yet. So
yeah,
fingers crossed for her.
Yep. And then the other person I'm going to go to on the men's side, Tim Venish, picking him from Germany. It was between him and Alex for my two picks. Same deal. I'm just looking at how fast people's best times were over the course of the season last year when you take out transition time, just to kind of adjust their time. And he was behind Hunter and Ryan Kent, and just always performed super well. What did he end up getting at Worlds? He was 4th, I believe. I don't have your screen up, but good finish. You know, he's going to be competing in Hyrox for sure. He's a little bit better than Alex in terms of running, and a little worse in the sleds, but most of the rest of the zones he was better. So that's why I chose him over Alex.
I think he's the right choice. I was hoping that he would be there. So I feel like you've made every choice right so far, honestly. My targeted list is who we've taken and who you've taken. There's no one taken out of order yet.
It's just who got back-to-back picks earlier. You got him first because you were 3-4, and now you have to wait a while, and you're going to lose out on a few. But it's hard. But I think so far we've kind of picked chalk at the moment.
Tim's probably the youngest athlete on the men's side on this list, so he has real big opportunity to make a huge jump in his performance. We saw he made a really big jump and really blasting some crazy times last year. I think he was 57 and change, and he had a rough go with the European Championship. He was sick, and then I think he did a pretty good job at the World Championships, where he was probably the favorite European, and Alex Ronkovic just had a better race in him that day to get on that podium. But I think he's only like 24, 25. So he has the breakout ability where he might be someone who would challenge Tobias and be able to run those type of fast times. I think he's going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah. Tim was 57 in Manchester last year, which is, I mean, it doesn't really matter that happens to be where they're going to be holding the world championship. And that was with 3:23 rock zone time. So that's like 54 and a half or so when you take out the rock zone. It's a really good performance.
All right, I'm up.
You taking yourself?
I probably
How confident
should.
are you?
You really should right now. Otherwise, you're kind of a schmuck.
Yeah. I was gonna take myself first. That's just it all plays. It all plays. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at some athletes. I'm like, well, if I'm taking him, I might just take myself there.
How's your fitness, Rich? How's it coming along?
Rock solid.
He's moving. Did a workout with him this weekend. Rich is fit.
We're fit out here. So maybe, but I think I might just punt on this one completely.
All right, Rich passes, and now it's Kurt's.
I'm gonna go out and really kind of reach here.
I like it.
Because I believe this person is going to really make a splash. Her name's
Can
Meg
I guess
Jacoby.
a letter?
No,
I was going to guess M, but yeah.
I'm taking Meg Jacoby here.
Darn.
Who
she looked good, huh?
She looked ridiculous. But
she didn't really take second.
No. She would have won that race.
She smashed, and she accidentally turned in a lap early, got a 3-minute penalty. I don't believe turning in a lap early helps your next station. I really don't.
No.
Can
Now,
hurt
After the
it.
sleds.
Not on the sleds for sure.
After the sleds too. Like it would be okay to get that another minute and 20.
Yeah.
Just-
So I wanted her real bad.
And the penalty, I was thinking about this. It's disproportionate if it's always 3 minutes. If it's a 3-lap course versus a 4-lap course,
Mm-hmm.
like it would, and she still almost won.
Oh,
She
you're
still almost
saying
beat-
arbitrary flat rate penalties are bad? Oh.
See, when all the courses are different.
I mean, that's the difference between a 1.5 minute penalty and like a 48 or 50-second penalty based on 3 laps or 4 laps, whatever that would come down to. That's probably terrible math, but it's really not equal. And there have been 2.5 lap courses.
right.
You might as well skip one of those.
I know. Then
If you're rocked.
Like, and she probably would have won if that was the case. But she was ahead of Alondra going into the burpee broad jumps, and Alondra got 4th in the world championship last year, and is fit and has like the top deck of mile and she's one of the top hybrid athletes, and Meg was kind of taking it to her. Who knows what would have happened if they would have raced together for the entire duration, but this was Meg's first ever event.
Yeah.
And she was a Division I runner and a
She
sheepler.
looks like it.
I know. And now she spent a lot of time in the gym. She's actually a pretty advanced weightlifter. She's gotten into she followed like the conjugate method for a long time, and some really cool like kind of stat to sum her up is that she probably is in like 17 mid shape, but she's run under 17 in a 5K and can bench press over 200 pounds. So like she has.
What's his name
all
was on the
pieces.
stream saying post bulking up, she's still broke 17 in a 5K.
Like a year or two ago. Yeah. Like she has all of the pieces. Things are kind of like set in for her. It's just a matter of, and she does a ton of volume. She's an absolute workhorse. So
She looked like the type of person that could win a world championship. We don't know what she did in preparation for this. Like, did this get her almost to her ceiling? But I would argue no one's got close to their ceiling in their first Hyrox. I just think she could cut off like 4 minutes this year.
say if she didn't skip that lap, her time would have been a 64:40 or something like that. So like a minute off the world record in her first shot,
she ran a
4-lap indoor course.
No.
Yeah. What was each lap? A minute and a half, roughly. She gets
a little bit
penalized
less.
3 minutes, so it's really yeah. So you're looking at roughly a minute and a half. You can add to her or take off of her time if you remove the penalty and add a run lap. Yeah, she's right around in the 64s.
And she was using her runs. She was rolling. She just she looks physically more like a CrossFitter, but when she runs, you think that woman can run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Skipping a lap only hurts her performance compared to if she had another lap to roll people down or gap them more. I know that's nonsensical because she skipped a lap and got further ahead, but like if she's matched up with someone, she wants another lap compared to, what if we could both skip a lap, that would help me. She would want more laps.
Agreed. Like she was putting on time even in the early parts of the run. So, I mean, she looks the part. She's like, everything's kind of come to the point of her career for this thing. Like she's coming in the most Hyrox ready of any athlete I think that we've seen, probably outside of Hunter.
And did you see her? I thought this was terrible what they did, honestly. They told her in the middle of burpee broad jumps, and you couldn't necessarily hear them saying it, or I couldn't. I had to turn low because the rest of the family was watching something else during that time, and I just had my phone up watching. But she stopped. She looked up. She was on her hands and knees, looked up at them, and her face just like
completely sunk.
Dropped. And she took like 3 or 4 seconds just confirming what they said, and her next several reps were like exactly what you would expect to feel if in the middle of the race you were just told you screwed your race up. And then she got back on it. And that right there told me everything I need to know about her as an athlete, that she had a demoralizing moment in the middle of a really, really difficult station and then got back to work and decided I'm going to try to run that deficit right back down.
And when you look at the splits, it was like she's 1, 2 in pretty much everything all the way down. It looked like a Hunter type of split sheet. And the spot where she wasn't was burpee broad jumps because of that. I talked to her for a little bit after the race, and she was most upset about not doing the wall balls unbroken. She's like, I could do this unbroken. I'm pissed that I didn't. I'm like,
320.
You hit her up?
Next time. I know her.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So question for you. So it was known midway through the race that she skipped a lap. Should they give her a penalty or be like, okay, make it up after this lap. Go run 1,500 right now.
Mhm.
A lot of people were saying that.
Is that fair? I don't know. It seems fair. They
There
let
it
should
work.
still be a penalty because you wouldn't want someone to
3 minutes, though?
tactically use that.
Make
it
it
should-
like 15 seconds would be enough to deter somebody.
Yeah.
30 seconds. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's fair.
30 at most.
Yeah,
You
I
still have
think
to do the
you should
work,
make
but
up
it's
the
not
lap.
arbitrary.
Make up the lap and maybe 10 extra wall balls or something that deters someone from trying to take advantage. Like if I can get out of sight and break someone's rhythm, I'll take a lap here and do my joker lap later, that kind of thing. You would
Mhm.
want it to be enough of a penalty that you don't have any incentive to do that, but it doesn't wreck your day. So whatever that would be.
We saw them at the World Championships when it was in Leipzig that I think Rachel Vonderak, she missed a sled pull length. And then after burpee broad jumps, they brought her sled back out and she finished her sled. So there's precedent for this. They should have just been like, just do one more lap. It's really easy.
Yeah.
Maybe screws up the timing somehow. I would imagine, but I don't know.
Well, and in that moment, what happened to her, the penalty was she had extra rock zone time. She had to go back, get to the sled, get done with the sled, and then get back out of it. And you could have done that there. You could have said, stop, go run one more lap. I'm marking your spot. Come right back here.
That's
Now
what they
the
should have done.
penalty. Yeah, the penalty is that she had to leave the rock zone and come back in and then resume.
She would have lost the lead. She would have been able to kind of come because Alondra was right on her. That's what they should have done. But like, stop what you're doing now. Go back out and run.
Immediate remedy it and get back to work. I think that's probably the most fair. What happened at
so.
World Championships with Hunter
This past
or Kent?
The judge told them that after 3 lengths of burpee broad jumps to go.
Mm-hmm.
So they added.
Was it that or was it Farmers?
It was burpee broad jumps.
Okay.
Burpees.
And it was maybe, would they add a minute, 30 seconds? They added time.
I thought it was
They
a minute.
Yeah.
It was flat.
It was a minute.
It was
Yeah.
a minute, I think.
Because Kent then only won by like 8 or 12 seconds or whatever it
Yeah,
was
it was
over
close.
third place. But
I was on the rower, dying my ass off and be like, maybe I have a chance. And then I just continued to suffer and just die. So I didn't.
you know what? I've come around to what you guys said. Whatever they're doing, let them either stop right there and go do it and come back and continue. Or if they were on like a rower where it's kind of tough to stop right there, complete your rower, go run out, do a lap, come back to the rower, and now finish and go and do your last. But I think you would have to insert it right in the middle so that you couldn't possibly gain an advantage, but it also doesn't screw up the race. You have the opportunity to keep going.
Mhm.
How about
I like
this?
that.
You just
Good job,
you
guys.
basically you have to do the rock zone for that zone. You have to run through there, strap yourself into the rower if you missed a lap, get out and leave. You're not doing extra work on the rower, but you've met the distance.
You have to go out the out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it might be a little confusing, but I get it. It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, don't go out the end. That might script the timing. I don't know how that works. Anyway, Meg Jacoby's going to be an absolute problem this year. Nobody on the female side is excited. If they watch that, no one's excited. No one's happy to see her out there. Besides me, because she's on my squad.
All right, back to back KB.
Kirk, what are you thinking here, darling?
I have to pee so bad, so my brain's not really working. That's why I've been quiet.
That's what I'm thinking.
All right,
about.
you
I
go
was
see-
trying to hang on till our pick. That's why I'm
Usually you're about an hour and a half in, Kirk, and then you disappear.
So what I do is I always work out before this, and I have like my coffee, and then I drink a bunch of water afterwards, and then it hits me about an hour and a half. But I am waffling on a couple of things. I think I can pull it together before I pee.
Well, why don't you go pee while I make our first pick, which I think we would agree on, Alex?
Yeah.
All right, so go pee, and I'll,
No, I can do this.
slowly pick.
No, I can do it. I can do
Franklin's
this.
going to waffle and hedge and talk about how he likes everybody, but
Alex
doesn't have to
Ronkovic.
make it. Okay, got it.
Are you going to talk about him for 90 seconds?
We
Nope.
can.
He's sub 59. He's consistently sub 60. He's a world championship podium finisher, and I think he's only going to get better.
He's as consistent of a championship racer, I think, that anybody in the sport, even someone like Hunter, who did have that year where he just didn't have it.
Talks a big game.
He's a
that
monster
clinch
on
lock.
sleds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
the waddle.
So Alex is going to be, he's good. And he kind of looks the part more. He looks more like a Kent than he does like a Tim Vinish. He's just like big, jacked, goes about his business. I think he's been on the world podium 3 times, at least twice,
At least 2.
at least the past 2 years. And then I think he didn't get an invite to the Elite 12. I think that's what that was.
Yeah.
Because they were bringing in influencers. They needed to get their influencers to see how they
That's right. All right. So on this next one,
What are the gender totals, by the way?
So
we have 3-2. Or we have 2-1.
2-1. You have 1 female.
Guys, 1 male. Okay.
Yeah, Jack, you have 2 females, 1 male.
Okay. Yeah, I switched over to the screen now. I see it. Okay.
There are a couple guys that I think are poised to have really good seasons. Really good seasons. And the world champion is still sitting there because now if Kirk wasn't here, I would just pick Chris. Because every single time she does something, she finds a way to get it done, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not going to get there," and she shows up and does it. All right, Kirk, what are you thinking, big guy?
Well, I think he feels better.
Oh my God, the whites of my eyes are turning yellow. All right, that's like a thing I think a grandpa would say. I don't know here. Here's the thing: my mind was going to sort of like a roll of the dice, which we do once in a while. But it's a big roll of the dice. And that is we could win this whole thing if a certain individual commits to racing these races, right? It's like one of those truly rolls of the dice. We have no idea. All we know is this gentleman comes in and crushes everything he does and will do the same in this space. And so there's somebody that jumps out to me that's never run one of these races before. And I think you know who I'm talking about. Or we balance our squad and pick a female. I can't decide. What are you thinking?
Well, I want to roll the dice on a female.
Oh,
I think it's time to take Chris.
Okay, but she's openly said she can't make any of the events.
Can she really not make North Americans?
No, and Chris, she'll figure it out. And Chris will figure it out.
My only thing with her is that
OCR Worlds and fly to Tahoe to do a 24-hour on the same weekend. She'll just run a morning race and then
her not doing events has never been a problem.
Yeah. She just always shows up. So I think
do we know where her heart is? Do we know? Is her heart equally distributed amongst the mountains and the hybrid space? Do we know any of this?
She's doing Deca Fit World Championship and Deca Miles, so she's invested in hybrid.
But I don't know, Kirk. That's a good question.
Yeah,
she's maybe the most joyful competitor I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But everyone has an ego. Everyone has one somewhere. Whether she and Rylan want to admit they have ego or not, they have one. And hers is saying, everyone's putting an asterisk on my world championship because Lauren wasn't there. And the race kind of devolved into this one-on-one battle as we broke away. And it just I turned out to be the better that day. But I don't know if anyone thinks I'm actually the best at Hyrox. And I like hearing about a Chris with that mindset. Now that's total speculation, but so that's who I would take here. But I'm of course open. The only issue is that after Chris, I see a logjam of pretty solid monsters, but she can beat all of them if she shows up.
Well, 2 things. One, in this scenario, doesn't it make a bigger difference? Only 4 total men have been picked and 5 women already. So picking a 6th woman, if we're going off of you want to pick the field that hasn't been saturated yet, which actually means the men's field is open to pick a higher ranked athlete potentially. Am I misunderstanding? And then 2, Chris's best time is a 107, right? And we have a lot of players on the board who have potential to go faster, but was that just because that particular race? Has she been consistently that low if we're going off of time here? Is there any
we're going men. I'm okay with going men, but if we go man, I actually want to take Tom Hogan.
You he's a 221 marathoner, don't you?
He's already sub 60, and the sleds might be a little easier. I don't know.
You're just going to pick holes in any of my theories here. So why don't you
I'm
go
going to
with
shoot
your
holes
gut?
in my own theory.
Kirk, to answer your question a little bit, to help you guys out, because you guys are having a tough time. She had her PR at that Vegas course, which I think was 2 minutes slower. So her PR probably is closer to 65.
You think so? Okay.
From that, I think her PR that qualified her in was a 110, and I think or 108. I think at North American Championships.
She went 113, 108, 107 at a slow course.
Yes, on a very slow course. Yes, so
Hunter and Kent were the only 2 that broke an hour there.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very slow course. I think her PR is probably closer to 65.
So you would pick a Tom Hogan over, like, let's say, a Rich Ryan in this case, huh?
I dare you.
Who is hung like a horse.
Hung like a horse.
There are
I
three
heard.
gentlemen I want to take. And I don't know really how I would put any of them out there other than one of them already broke 60.
Okay.
But I mean,
Here's the thing. This is your space more than mine, so I will defer to you. I really will. I'm confident whatever you pick. I just think if you take a guy, no, just go. You pick. See, this is the problem when you have two of us on one team.
Chris.
Turns into this situation.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
I was like, are you guys handing me the reigning world champ? This is amazing.
every single time that we have the debate about Chris and we take her, we're happy we took her.
Well, no, it just has to do with what is she showing up or not.
Yeah.
That's the whole deal.
Of all the people on the planet who I would trust to show up despite irregularities in schedule, she's number one by a lot.
And be unaffected.
However, I am very open to owning this. If she doesn't show up, I take full blame on this.
This just occurred to me now is like when, like she'll probably get the needed amount of races, but she might do doubles before a couple of these races. she might come back and have this might be her second or third race of the day that she's doing that will build into your time. You guys need that world championship, whatever we have the world championship amplifier. We need that to be advantageous for you guys potentially.
We'll see Chris this weekend at a hybrid event in Colorado Springs. So we'll see how she does there.
You know what?
Serious arena. Yeah, go ahead.
She has not disappointed one single time yet. Mm-hmm. Not one single time, other than not showing up, which would then, of course, be a disappointment. I don't think one time she's allowed us to entertain the fact that Chris did this or Chris did that. I don't think once has she ever not shown up. Ever. I can't think of a race.
Even her duds are spectacular, like Mexico.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great dud.
Was that a dud?
What'd she
No.
get? What was she
That's my point. Name a worse race than that for her this year. I don't think there is one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was she third there?
I thought she was fourth or fifth.
Fourth?
No, I don't think she was on the podium.
No.
Yeah.
And she led by like an
In Mexico
amount early.
Yeah.
Yeah, where was she,
I
Jack?
thought she was second in Mexico.
Was she?
Well,
I thought
What
she
was-
was. But
second would be quite a dud.
I mean, there's a currency exchange rate. No one really knows.
We don't know what really happened down there.
Point is, we drafted her again.
I like it.
All right, I'm up.
I would not have been disappointed with Chris. So kind of mad you took her. All right. I'm actually going someone who's not on this list.
Hey, whoa.
I was going to say,
you're going to take my pick?
because of a spelling error. But
It's just not your pick.
It's
I
just
think
not your
is the
pick.
issue.
oh, geez. Yeah, you're right.
He's trying to rub my face in the spelling error. I don't even. Do you not know who I mean with this? I don't even know who you're talking about.
She's not even on this list.
It's not even on the list.
I'll
Well,
mention
there's
it.
a spelling error.
All right, fuck this. I'm taking me.
Thank
Yeah.
God.
Damn it.
Yeah.
We're doing this thing. I take all the other picks that you guys made as disrespect, adding it to my shoulder.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, you've never even broke an hour, man.
Doesn't matter. Here we
I'm
go.
joking.
We're
I'm
fucking.
joking.
We're going.
I don't even have
hard
a.
If I had to vote on most improved this year in the U.S. sphere, it would be you.
Well, I think I was that last year, so maybe I can get that twice in a row. We could see.
Mhm. Rich, what do you think your 5K is at right now? If you let's say you gave you 3 weeks, what do you think you could crank out?
Right now at sea level,
3 weeks, sea level. Yeah.
15:28.
Oh, you said 15:30 2 days ago. So
Now
I guess
that's
you're a little
right.
faster now.
2 seconds faster. I'm making progress.
We'd be reaching for the line together. All right.
You got to be
That's quick.
faster than that now.
I don't know. I ran 15:28 my last time trial. But
Oh,
I know.
yeah.
I mean, you're
Corral.
probably
Ropes
faster.
him up.
I'm taking motherfucking me. So, yeah, I'm gonna be racing in LA, probably the championships.
You're going to be taking
I'm
some
excited.
scalps in LA. A lot of people are going to be there. So
Everyone on their
meet the Rich
debut.
Ryan train.
This is the day.
I'll be there to
that
welcome
either
them.
you squash the hype train or the hype train squashes your entire season. You're not going to come back from it if Rylan just rams you.
Ain't gonna happen.
I
And
don't believe so either.
the
He's
I
going
know,
to have to break
not-
60.
extra motivation. I would think so. Extra
I
motivation
watched-
for the year.
Yeah. Did you guys see Rich's video that he got tagged in on wall balls the other day? All right. So we did a pretty hard session.
Oh yeah.
Ryan's. How many unbroken wall balls at the end of probably 40 minutes of compromise work? Pretty hard effort there. How many unbroken wall balls do you think Rich got at the end of that?
72.
80.
You're
48.
short.
82.
82.
Ooh.
Wow.
I was hoping for 100.
Yeah.
What was that heart rate going into those?
It wasn't. It was.
We
It
had
was like
5+
after. I was like.
minutes break.
I was like a cash.
Okay.
I was a cash out.
Nonetheless. Wow.
Yeah. There was no problem. Easy
Yep.
work.
No,
Oh,
Rich
brother.
looked good. He looked strong.
Thank you. So we got some work to do. Let's move on.
All right.
Jack, you're up.
The spelling error was Alondra Greenlee. It's Lee at the end of her name. So
You didn't know who I meant?
I figured it out.
It doesn't say doctor in front of it.
It's
That's true.
Lee.
Hey, Cole Schwartz was a doctor in the results once, so maybe
It's
he was like
that,
Dr.
really?
Professor Cole Schwartz once.
Big Alondra?
Lee. Yep. I'm looking at
Nice.
I'm looking at the New York City results right now.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Nice. Good pick.
I liked she was entertaining on, I think you interviewed her as well, but I know Matt interviewed her
Better.
back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm buying in. I mean, 4th at the World Championship last year and just won New York City. You know she's going to be focusing on hybrid. Probably the best on the board. So that's what I'm going with.
I that's who I would have taken if I didn't take myself, but I took myself. So she's, yeah. I mean, last year she debuted with a 67 at New York, and then qualified to the World Championships. With that time, finished 4th, basically with no experience, very little running experience. So, but she is just a workhorse. She can just put out energy, and that's what she does. So I think if she's a little bit more dialed in, improves that running. Her running was actually even pretty good at New York this past race, but just Meg was just so fast that it was like hard to really see how well that she was actually doing. But her running was pretty solid.
Yeah.
So I think she's gonna be good, and she's gonna. We'll see her at DECA too. That'll be really interesting. I think we could see her on a podium at a couple of the DECA events.
Yep. Definitely. Next pick. I know Kirk and Bracken, you were going to take Hunter, but I can't leave him on the board at this point. If he does show up, I mean, he's as good as it gets in the sport. I'm picking Hunter McIntyre.
All right.
Mute Bracken. Professional Bracken is muted.
We had a motorcycle in the background.
Once an episode, you're good for that.
Minimum. I had a conversation with him yesterday.
Oh, look at this.
Uh-oh.
I didn't
too
put
late.
him on the list.
Highlight it, Rich. Make it official.
It's all right. He changes his mind a lot.
He
I'm
does.
fine. Hunter McIntyre is the 12th pick in a year in which, even if he doesn't show up, I still have a chance if he does change his mind.
Brackens fucked her.
What did you say? What did you guys talk about?
Well, the fact that he doesn't have aims on necessarily doing it was enough for me. I think that if we see him twice.
Mhm.
And that's not enough.
It ain't gonna do it.
However, if he shows up 3 times, he is the safest pick. Period.
On the planet. Yeah.
But now we know Hunter does not show up unless he is ready. Like, he will not show up again unless he's all in. I don't think he will. He's got an ego the size of a tall building, and he's not going to show up without being ready, and his focus isn't there yet. So it's like, that is a gamble. I think it is a true gamble because he don't want to lose. If he shows up, he's not going to want to lose.
If he shows up, it's gonna be it's gonna be for a paycheck, right?
Correct.
Like, it's
Yeah.
a big paycheck at the end of the year that you're gonna have to be prepared. That everyone's gonna be preparing for. So it's not just even like to go out and just to kick everybody's teeth in like how we'd want to, but he's really gonna have to prepare for it.
Guarantee you, if someone starts running their mouth, Hunter will see that and be like, all right, this is my course. This is my domain. I'm taking
I don't think
back my
anyone's
bet."
that stupid. I don't
It's
think
the
anybody-
one thing we're missing right now is he's the only mouth in the sport. Like, we need someone to start talking.
Dude, I sit here and talk 2 fucking hours with you guys every week. Ken will talk. Ken will mix it up a little bit.
Not on the same level, though.
No. I thought that's something that's missing a little bit on the women's side, at least in OCR in general, is someone to kind of like be polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think there's a couple athletes that are like that, maybe, but no one like Hunter. It just makes it more entertaining and more exciting when he is racing. But dude, the fitness that he was in at the World Championships last year was crazy.
Yeah,
that was, I think, the most fit person that's ever existed. So if you can bring that back,
you wrote, because I'm looking, I should have 5 picks right now. You wrote BK next to Alondra, so change it to me. I was like, something's not adding up right there.
I was going to take her there. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Good to go.
What do we do here? Goodness. Anything else you want to say about Hunter?
I think everybody knows how good he is when he shows up. So.
It's been said. The only potential caveat, I'm giving him some chips on his shoulder here, is that he is aging to the point where he can still do everything he always could, but he won't respond as quickly anymore. And he has been known to switch lanes often and then get really fired up about something and fly back in.
Mm-hmm.
And each year you do that, you lose a little bit of the base you had, even if it's a different base you currently have, and you respond a little slower. And we saw it cost him once last year. We'd never seen it cost him before. So the only caveat to all of this is, does he leave it a little too late and rely on his crazy inferno he cultivates in training to pull him through? If he mistimes it, he's not necessarily the lock he used to be. If he doesn't mistime it, he's the man to beat.
Yeah. Like he did 2 years ago where he missed it.
4th place, yeah.
Yeah. And Tobias, Alex Ronkovic, Thiago Lusa, who's also on this list, just made him pay. I'm up. What am I supposed to do here? I'm kind of all right. I'm gonna go with Alyssa Hawley here.
Yeah.
Pretty much next best available, 5th place at the World Championships last year. And I think we only saw her race twice last year, where she was 3rd at the US Championships, beating Chris, and then 5th at the World Championships. And before the World Championships, she was at Go Ruck Games, just giving it to people, working people at all those events. And then she just got eliminated in that head-to-head whatever situation. But her hybrid fitness is really strong, and I'm hoping we'll see her a little bit more in racing.
She's been off the radar.
She's going all in, right?
She used to keep us posted pretty well as like fans of the sport on what was going on with her. And then she went through injury, and that was pretty public, and she posted about that. And we all felt in the know, but now I think she's just kind of silently in monk mode. And I think she's, from what we know, healthy and consistent. And this may be her best crack at her best performances in years, if that is indeed the case. Correct. She's just been more silent. We're seeing more like life stuff on her social media and less about like her out on course. But from what I understand, she's trending the right direction. Is she not? So,
I mean, I think that's the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause. I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what she's been up to. So, but when she does post, it's about hybrid stuff. And when we see her, it's doing hybrid things. We will see her at DECA, right, Jack? She's in that top 12.
Beliefs. I thought that there were like 2 people who haven't accepted. I don't know if she's one of them, but I'm assuming she will be.
Okay. All right. Corral. 2 picks.
What are your thoughts?
I am so worthless when it comes to this conversation. And I know that. I don't know the space as well as you guys.
Yet. You will. That's why we're doing this. This is just an education for you.
You know what would help is if I knew these, if I could watch these things on like a Monday instead of a Saturday, which now I realize I can, then right in it. So I'll be getting up to speed, fellas. Don't you worry. But part of me wants to gamble again. I don't know what I think. I don't know what I think, Bracken. I got this thing for Rylan right now where I just like, dudes impress me time and time again. The way he blew past Kent and Deca, if it is running strong, he'll pick up everything else. He always shows up. And if he does the first one and has success, he's going to want to come back. And if he does the first one and lays an egg, he's going to want to come back and prove it was a fluke. I just don't see him not coming back. And that's why I think rolling the dice on a guy like him for one of our picks makes sense in my brain, because that dude races it all and wants it all. And he's got the range. So I would like to gamble on him because it could be something that just wins us the whole damn thing if he commits.
Take him.
And then I will defer to you. I'm putting my stamp on you, Rylan.
All right.
And then I will defer to you as far as you're talking out the next one.
think you have to go with a woman for your next one.
Yes.
No, we don't.
You do.
Okay.
Can I ask who is? I don't know much about Sophia. Kaiser?
Cassier.
Cassier?
Cassier.
She, I don't know too much about her either. She ran that 65 and change at that Basel race that Linda broke the record. She was third behind her and behind Linda and behind Miriam.
She's the question then in key, just why she isn't on the radar anymore as much.
And mine is, what's with Rachel?
I don't know how much MK's racing. It doesn't seem like that much for Hyrox. And Rachel, I have no idea. I don't know what her status is.
So I want to take Rachel, but I'd also be okay with Tara Jackson.
Tara Jackson's been putting down some impressive work.
But Bridget Brown might just end up with the best season out of all of them. So those are my three. This is your round, Kirk. Those are my three suggestions: Bridget Brown, Tara Jackson, or Rachel Van Der Rack.
It was funny at the World Championships because they're German. They said her name in a German way, and it's not exact. It's not how we say it at all.
Van Der Rack.
How many races has Tara Jackson run, would you say?
A lot.
Roughly. A lot?
She will race. Like she'll get like the other one. Well,
And
I would lean towards Bridget, I guess.
And Bridget's raced once, correct?
She's only done one.
Debuted with a 108. And that we see that learning curve in this, knowing what I do about this is like minutes are going to be taken off. Look at Chris Rogowski's progression. It's like Bridget's ceiling might have a little bit more potential.
All right. Put your stamp on it.
Well, it's a soft stamp, but let's go with Bridget Brown.
One flaccid stamp from us.
All right.
I would have felt better if we were saying that about a male competitor. I'm not totally comfortable with that statement.
Now it's out there.
You'll apologize for that one next episode.
Yeah. The 14th pick. All right, good pick. I think Bridget's going to do well. I mean, like she's a really, really strong athlete. So I think when she gets a couple more reps at this thing, she's going to do like a 68 debut is really solid. You know, she got fourth in this race behind, you know, Meg Alondra and Camilla Massa, who's done a ton of these races. So, you know, looking back historically, 68, I think that's what Chris ran at North American Championships to get fourth last year. Different course, different sleds, but still, like it puts her in a good territory for a debut for sure. So I like it.
Sweet.
I'm up.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I think there's a man out here who's going to have a very good season, and I wanted to take him. I didn't know we had to take a female there. So I'm hoping he's just sitting there waiting for us.
Come around wild card. Man. Now, what do I do here? I truly have no idea what to do.
Any torque athletes you want to ignore?
That I want to not pick. All right. I'm going to take Michael Sambach here.
Made my job a lot harder. Okay.
So he is another one of these athletes that I think has really big potential to improve. We saw him improve a lot just over the course of last year, running 60 in his first season. He's like a soccer player who then got super jacked, and now he's a hybrid athlete and taking it a little bit more serious. The thing with him is just he just like doesn't finish races sometimes. He just like gets all the way through and just like stops doing them. He did that at the European Championship. He just stopped doing the wall balls, and that was just like this massive mental hiccup that just it's unfortunate to see happen to an athlete. And he was in the Basel race during lunges, and he stopped then too. I don't know if it was as much a mental hiccup as it was physical, but sometimes he doesn't finish races, which would be bad for my team. But I think he has potential.
If you had to pick one trait not to have in a keeper league, that might be it.
That's not.
But he's really good.
But he's really good. His potential is really high. I think I think we'll see him under 59 this year. So
wall balls is just weirdest place to drop. You do an hour worth of work and you just say, fuck it, I'm off.
He was in second.
Oh my goodness.
You know, if you stumble in there and stop it, if you're like in 12th, I mean, maybe it's just not your day, but it was his day.
Interesting.
But I like him.
He's got the best. He would have been who I would have taken here. Best upside, in my opinion.
I disagree.
Lucky for us.
All right.
Rich Ryan does.
Who's up?
Kirk
He's
DeWint does.
Already off the board. Are we taking Kirk DeWint here, Jack? Jack, you're up. Got to take it too.
Roll with it.
Yep.
Sweet. I'm going Tom Hogan.
All right.
That is just too much of a Jack pick to avoid Jack picking it.
Yeah.
It checks every mark you could ever have had. A fantastic road runner, not American, still on the board. Those are your
Ireland. So
you should have taken him
World
like 4 rounds ago.
It's going to be pretty easy for him to travel to Manchester from Ireland. Rich, your seed time from Chicago, you went 29:38 for your 8K. And whatchamacallum, I already lost his name, right? Tom, he went 29:36, so he was 2 seconds faster. So he's just as good of a runner as you. And I think highly of you this season. So yeah, has Rich run a 2:21 marathon?
He ran within 2 seconds of him in the Hyrox. That's what we're talking about.
That's exactly, yeah. Let's not.
That was Tom. Tom's in his 40s. So
he's young 40s, yeah.
Yep, it's still in his 40s. But like, I think that time was
in the 90s,
in his 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
no,
I mean,
but
he has the high end. He has a crazy 50K too. I don't speak 50K times as much. He has like a road or like some sort of like really, really fast 50K that he's run. He's a really talented runner. He's a good athlete.
He doesn't have many weaknesses. Like, he's pretty in the middle on a lot, like against the best in the sport at his splits. I'm just looking at it. Low 4 for the wall balls. That's faster than Kent did in Chicago. Good at burpee broad jump. He doesn't lose time when you lose time. He's pretty solid on the sleds as well. So I think just that running ability, people are going to figure things out with the sleds this year. That's going to be the biggest difference maker. So Tom Hogan it is.
All right. Wild card.
All right.
I love the European picks because they're not going to get faster because their sleds aren't changing.
You're just trying to psych me out.
No, I just that justification, I don't see it, but maybe theirs will get faster as well.
I freaking hope not. The one race where one of these athletes has their PR from, I was looking at it. It was in Madrid last year, or one of them, and the sled was 1:44. 1:44, and my sled from the race I qualified for is like 3:50.
I want to say that's what Callie and I did on our women's weight doubles sled push, where we didn't take a single break. We just cranked the whole time between the two of us.
Right, sprinting. They did that in the second station of a race.
Wow.
Wild card.
So, how pregnant is Rachel? She's
probably pretty pregnant
at this point. So, realistically, if she has a baby, I don't know her. I thought it was around fall or so, based on the timing when I heard about it earlier. So, probably like the next month. That's about maybe 2 months to recover. Lauren Weeks sort of did that. I don't know. It's just a fast turnaround. I think it's too risky at this point. If we're just looking at consistency and people who are going to race
2 months
a lot,
is too short.
2 months is too short. Yeah. Sarah Colte, I'm going to go with her just because she's going to race a lot and she's performed at the world championship level in the past.
Okay. I thought you'd take a dude because you basically have a wild card as one of your top picks. So
right.
you didn't want Hunter insurance.
Maybe I just have and it's not like all these athletes are going to be in the same race at the same time for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just bringing that up.
Come on, save my day, Rich.
All right.
I think I know who you're eyeing too, Bracken. Is it a dude?
I'm not saying a thing because Rich will do it just to spite me.
Correct. Wait, what'd you guys take? Okay. I took Bridget over Tara. Okay. Who are my women? Women are rock solid. All right. if this person's listening right now, he's probably screaming.
There are two people screaming right now.
100%.
And those are probably the two who are going to get picked.
I'm taking Magida.
That's totally Bracken's pick.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. The man just came off a stress fracture and ran 60 flat.
Yeah.
And he looked big. He's only going to get faster.
Mm-hmm.
His farmer's carry was really good. Like he's improved some things that he sucked on in the past by just not being able to run in a while. I think he's going to have a monster year.
I think so too. And like we saw this with him a couple of times. He seems to race really well when he's kind of out of his preferred style of training, which is just like sim. Last year when he ran 61 and change, it was after marathon training. And this time was after an injury. So hoping there's learning here and he'll come out big. And like, it's just a matter of showing up on the big races and putting it out there. So he has the high end ability
for sure.
Yeah, he has the high end
Without
ability
having to focus on running. That's now he gets his running back. He's going to be a transformed racer.
Realistically, like he should be able to push someone like Ryan Kent. You know,
Could have been the best thing for him to have to be stuck in the gym, going to the lab, not running. Long-term development wise, yeah.
I got you, Magida. That's my guy. All right.
So here's still the Dylan Scott pick.
Is there anyone else but Dylan Scott for you, Kirk?
No, I can't figure out why he's still sitting there. So
Yeah. It's interesting because if you just looked at anyone else with his frame and said the sleds get easier this year, he's the no-brainer. And he was already fifth at World Championships. I think the only thing holding any of us back was the fact that he hasn't been particularly like special at DECA, and that's a lighter version of this. And so like we know foot speed isn't his forte. He's a grinder type of foot speed guy.
Mm-hmm.
Having
He's
1,000
all
meters, that helps a ton.
What'd you say?
Having 1,000 meters instead of 500 for him, that's what differentiates him.
I'm just trying to come up with reasons he hasn't been picked, but he's the no-brainer. So we take Dylan Scott, and Dylan, we have the pleasure of having you on our team and the pleasure of you having even more chips on your shoulder because you lasted this long. Yep. Dylan doesn't struggle. He does not struggle to find motivation to train, and he will call you out on camera for it at the end of a race. He talks that talk. Maybe he is the only one talking that talk other than Hunter. So welcome aboard.
Dylan ain't stepping off the course like some people on here.
I got two athletes like that.
Who's your second?
Well, Makita did that last year at.
I just wanted to hear you say that.
He has done it before, which I don't always blame athletes.
Oh, someone brought it up on the live stream.
That's all. That's all.
I felt so bad every time for Kate Magida because she's on the live stream, and people just like to rip on Dave on these streams. Like he's played the heel role intentionally with Hunter to get himself into a race, and as a result, like she's reaping what he sowed. And I feel so bad for her because it's not her fault.
No, the Hunter Mafia has it out for Magida.
Yes,
on the live stream, they're like, he's kicking his rope into the other person's lane.
Which he was.
Everybody does that though.
But everyone does.
Everyone
just moves it one over, and that's what happens.
And it's like not a problem. It's like if you move yours out of the way, it just.
If Hunter did it, they'd be like, such an alpha. Dave does it. They're like, how dare he? He's exactly who we thought he was.
Do you blame NBC on why David's reputation is what it is with some people? After that, like elbow to Glenn Race, and then same thing with the Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge. They made him like Hollywood Magida or something. They had some ridiculous moniker for him. And
people have forgotten about all that.
Yeah,
Dave has intentionally made every single move he's made.
Yeah,
and it's worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're talking about him.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That whole lead up he was calling everyone under the sun, trashing Hunter, trying to get in. He decided to have a viral marketing campaign against Hunter just to raise just like the stakes of everything. And it worked. So, I mean, this is what you get, right? Colby Covington had a bit of this. Eventually Masvidal walked up him on the street outside of a restaurant and dropped him. Like this is the downside of running your mouth, is that other people will follow you into your regular life with, like, you got into the race. It doesn't end there. It follows you on. So Magida has the Hunter Mafia against him.
He brought it in that race though. That was the thing. He wasn't allowed in that race because, again, influencers. And he's like, this is stupid. I should be in this race. And then got second. So proved his point. Did a good job. we've run long. We don't need to recap this. We'll make sure we are keeping you updated on how it goes. So every time there's a Hyrox event, we'll follow our team and be able to kind of assert the times in there. So I'm happy we did this. I think it'll be fun. Any last comments? Because I think we got a roll. It's a long one.
We should all do a Hyrox at some point this year, including Kurt.
I think we do. Yeah, I think we got to come up with something for our. We got to make a mid-season pivot with a pick. We got to earn it. So I agree.
I'll be honest, I didn't want to do this today. I had a good time.
Nice.
Why would you want to do this, Bracken?
I just didn't like the idea.
You got to speak up. No bad ideas in brainstorming. We're just kicking it around.
I talked about it with Matt yesterday. I'm not a good judge of what other people are going to like always. And just because I don't want to do something doesn't mean I'm not going to have a good time with it once it starts. So I've learned not to speak up in those situations.
Bluetooth headphones, Bracken. You weren't a fan of those.
No, I thought they were dumb and they're great. Anyways, when you said we should do a Hyrox draft, I thought that's dumb, which means it's probably going to be good. So I'm not going to say anything.
We need the feedback. We need to be open. No offense to be taken. What if we could have done something better? This is going to be good though. But it could be something better.
Yeah, we're going to hold a drawing pretty soon for Patreon.
What's that? Oh yeah,
we're going to hold a drawing pretty soon. So
we will.
Current patrons, be on the lookout for that pretty soon.
For sure. And if you're not a current patron and you like what we're doing here, you can take a look at the link in the show notes if you would wish to support this, help us grow, help us keep this thing afloat. We appreciate you guys. Next week, I think we need to game plan something. I don't think we have much yet. What we got on the running public?
We have on Friday a guy who just gave it to Kirk at a local trail race and is a monster on the roads. And today,
4.5 on us.
Yeah, 64.5.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And then today we talked about approaching the start of the off season, how to rebuild, how to assess, how to move forward. Kind of shamelessly plugged that's what we're doing in the Training Peaks group right now. Broke down how do you reassess and look forward and make sure that you're better next year than this year.
It kind of is the end of OCR season for most athletes.
And if it's not, it's time to start thinking about it so that when the season ends, you're not like, what should I do?
Right. Maybe you have one more event or something fun like a trifecta or an ultra or something you just want to kind of do.
Unless it's world's toughest, you already know how your season's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only people still waiting, or a fall marathon, who don't really know what their season has, what their training has done for them. Everyone else, even if you have one more race left, you already know how you've improved or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the Tyler interviews be interesting because he's one of those guys still chasing the dream, like 2:12 in the marathon, 64 in the half. Like, what is it like to chase the dream in your mid-20s, like at a high level running, but like unsupported?
Did you run for the club in Minnesota?
We're going to find all that out.
Oh, you don't even know. There's a kid from my high school who's out there named Tyler Abert. Have you come across him?
Mm-mm.
He was like a sub-4 guy, ran at Penn State. And I think he's out for that club team in Minnesota.
Yeah, they got some good runners.
I don't know why you'd move to Minnesota to pursue a running career, though. That seems rough.
Beautiful here.
Heath ran out of there, I believe. They've always had a bunch
they have
of
a good
runners.
squad.
Yeah,
but
do it.
But to not be from Minnesota and then move to Minnesota, no offense.
Although I will die on this hill that if I'm training for a marathon, I want to do it in the winter. I don't want to be down in Florida training for a marathon.
Right.
Give me some fall and winter Midwest running to just get gritty.
I guess so. If you want to have a terrible time, that's not a bad idea.
What about you, Rich? What do you got?
I had David Mikita on the podcast, and we went about as long as this. It was a really fun, good conversation. Not exactly sure what I got coming up this weekend here, but we'll figure it out.
Dave can give me a run for the money and doesn't mind talking department.
Yep.
Yes.
You're guaranteed to get 2 hours.
Hands down. He's like, all right, I got to go. I got to go see the baby. I was like, okay, good. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Thanks for listening as always. We appreciate you guys so much. So we'll be talking about Hyrox throughout the season now that we have a Dynasty draft in place. So that's it for us. We'll talk to you later.